After it was over, the two embraced and fell asleep. Chin Hao rested his chin on her back, feeling joyful, and spoke in a low, seductive voice. Wanna, let's get married. Chapter 376, So Wronged. Tang Wanna was so exhausted that she was on the verge of falling asleep. Hearing her third brother's voice from behind, she tried hard to listen to what he was saying, but she couldn't open her eyes no matter how hard she tried. She only managed to mumble a vague before sinking into a deep sleep. The next morning, when Tang Wanna woke up, she thought about what had happened the previous night, and couldn't help but blush with embarrassment. She was even too shy to make eye contact with her third brother. In the morning, she deliberately waited until he had gotten up before she crawled out of bed. After getting up, she slowly washed her face and brushed her teeth, dawdling and feeling too embarrassed to leave the room. In the end, Chin Hao noticed that she hadn't come out for a long time, and since it was already 10 minutes past their usual time to leave for work, he went to her room to check on her. Wanna, are you ready? Chin Hao entered the room but didn't see anyone. Hearing sounds coming from the bathroom, he walked over and gently knocked on the door. Wanna, are you done? There's no time to eat breakfast at home. I've packed it for you. You can take it to the office and eat there. Tang Wanna's heart raced and her mind went into a frenzy just from hearing third brother's voice. She accidentally knocked over some bottles and jars on the sink, making a noise. Chin Hao, hearing the sound from outside the door, anxiously knocked and asked, Wanna, what happened? Nothing. Third brother, I just dropped a bottle. I'll be right out. Tang Wanna quickly replied. After dawdling for another 10 minutes or so, she slowly emerged from the bathroom. Chin Hao had already prepared breakfast for her and was waiting in the living room, ready to leave at any moment. Seeing her come out unharmed, he let out a soft sigh of relief, belatedly realizing that the little girl must have been feeling shy. So, without saying another word, he took her hand. And the two of them left together. Throughout the entire time, Tang Wanna was like an ostrich, her face slightly flushed as she kept her head down and followed behind Chin Hao. Even after getting into the car, she remained quiet and still, a far cry from her usual noisy, inquisitive self. Chin Hao kept his eyes on the road ahead, seemingly focused on driving, but the corners of his mouth were slightly upturned, unable to hide his amusement. Tang Wanna also clearly felt that third brother was in a good mood. After the car was parked in the CEO's exclusive parking spot in the underground garage of JK Group, Chin Hao didn't immediately open the door to get out. Instead, he held Tang Wanna's hand and flashed his charming smile. Tang Wanna stared blankly, completely mesmerized by third brother's gentle smile and strikingly handsome face, instantly turning into a lovesick fool. Third brother, how can he be so good-looking? Chin Hao seemed to have prepared for a long time, his thin lips parting with a smile as he said, Wanna, when are you going to tell your uncle and aunt about what you promised last night? Tang Wanna blinked blankly, her mind a complete void. She blinked again with effort, but still couldn't recall anything. Last night, on a sudden impulse, she had offered to help third brother, and ended up in a situation where it was impossible to back down. Bracing herself, she let third brother's large hand cover her small one, guiding her until her hand grew sore and it finally ended. At the time, she was so embarrassed she nearly cried, pushing third brother away. She quickly ran into the bathroom, washed her hands, and then climbed back into bed. Since it was already quite late, she fell asleep almost as soon as she lay down. It seemed that in her drowsy state, she heard third brother say something from behind her, but she didn't quite catch it and just casually hummed in response. Now, how could she possibly remember? Third brother, what did you say to me yesterday? Tang Wanna asked cautiously. Feeling as though she had missed something extremely important, this was especially evident when third brother's expression noticeably darkened the moment she asked the question. She's really something. Third brother had been visibly happy the whole way, but with just one sentence from her, his good mood flew away. But, did she really not hear it? Chin Hao looked at her bewildered expression and let out a heavy sigh. He was really going to be driven mad by this girl, so his let's get married was all said in vain. Last night, when he heard her respond, only heaven knew how excited he was at that moment. He was just about to announce it to the whole world, and now he finds out she didn't even hear what he said. He was just too aggrieved. Chin Hao pulled open the car door and got out directly. However, he couldn't bear to leave Tang Wanna behind and walk ahead alone. So he waited for her to grab her bag and come to his side before stepping toward the elevator. Tang Wanna quickly followed, unwilling to give up as she tugged at his arm and asked coquettishly, Third brother, what exactly did you say last night? Chin Hao allowed Tang Wanna to shake his arm, turning his head away proudly with pursed lips and an unhappy expression, deliberately speaking coldly. Nothing. If you didn't hear it then forget it. Tang Wanna pouted, unable to help but sigh. Men in love can really turn cold just like that. But she didn't mind, happily holding onto third brother's arm as they took the elevator upstairs together. Chin Hao looked at her carefree demeanor and felt even more frustrated, unable to resist raising his hand to pinch her little cheek as he said, "You little rascal." This girl really had him wrapped around her finger, and yet, he willingly savored every bit of it. Tang Wanna covered her little face with her hands, pouted, and looked up at him. "That hurts, third brother, why did you pinch me?" And he even scolded her. Chin Hao looked at her grimacing expression and suddenly felt his mood lift again. All the gloom swept away. "I didn't use much force, okay." After saying that, he gently rubbed the spot he had just pinched a few times, leaned in, and blew on it as if comforting a child. "Blow on it, and it won't hurt anymore." Tang Wanna felt that the side of her face that had been pinched now felt heavier than the other side. The warm breath from third brother's mouth made her face turn even redder. And how did third brother's mood shift from cloudy to clear so quickly? The elevator arrived at the 15th floor, and Tang Wanna quickly dashed out in a flash. Oh no, whenever third brother got close, she couldn't help but think of what happened last night. If there were a mirror right now, you would definitely see her face as red as a monkey's bottom. Chin Hao stood in the elevator, watching her fleeing figure, and silently curled the corners of his mouth. Just as the elevator doors were about to close, he suddenly reached out to stop them and followed her out of the elevator. Tang Wanna stared blankly at the person who had gotten off with her and was now walking beside her. Not quite grasping the situation, she asked in confusion, "Third brother, this is the 15th floor, meaning, it wasn't his stop yet." Chin Hao smiled slightly and replied, "I know." Tang Wanna was even more puzzled. "Are you looking for the manager?" "No." "No, if not, then why did you follow me off the elevator?" Tang Wanna silently retorted in her heart. Chin Hao stopped walking, paused for a moment, and then replied, "I'm taking the stairs up." After saying that, he pulled Tang Wanna over, stole a kiss, and then calmly pushed open the stairwell door and walked away, leaving Tang Wanna standing there in a daze. When she looked up, she saw two colleagues standing in front of her with wide eyes. Third brother definitely did that on purpose. Chapter 377, Sisters Go Shopping. At noon, Tang Wanna was summoned by third brother to have lunch in his office. By now, she had grown accustomed to swaggering openly into his office, or rather, everyone had grown accustomed to seeing her and third brother together, whether coming, going, or eating. Colleagues from the secretarial office on the 16th floor would greet her with a smile, saying, "Wanna, here to see President Chin, he just brought lunch in, perfect timing to eat." Tang Wanna would also smile and nod in response. Pushing the door open, she indeed saw third brother unpacking the takeout lunch and arranging it on the table. These days, she truly lived a life of ease, clothes handed to her and meals served to her, with third brother taking care of everything so she didn't have to lift a finger. After finishing lunch, she grabbed a bottle of fresh milk from the fridge and drank it, then took a short nap in third brother's lounge, feeling refreshed. She headed downstairs to continue working hard. Just before the end of the workday, she received a call from Chin Ching, who said she had just returned to the company and invited Tang Wanna to go shopping and have dinner after work. "You have to keep me company tonight no matter what. How long has my brother been monopolizing you? I've made such a big sacrifice by not disturbing the two of you for so long." Chin Ching coaxed and persuaded, insisting that Wanna must belong to her tonight. "If my brother doesn't let you go, I'll just rush into his office and snatch you away." "Third brother isn't that domineering," Tang Wanna whispered in defense. "Look at you, it hasn't been that long since you two got together, and you're already taking his side. Am I still your dearest little Ching Ching?" Chin Ching started acting coquettishly with Tang Wanna. All right, I'll keep you company tonight." "Of course, you're my dearest little Ching Ching," Tang Wanna said with a laugh, after making plans with Chin Ching. Tang Wanna was just about to call her third brother to let him know, holding her phone. Before she could even dial the number, she turned around and saw her third brother standing right behind her. It turned out it was already time to get off work, and everyone else had left. Tang Wanna put down her phone and happily ran toward Chin Hao. "Third brother, when did you come down?" "Just now." Chin Hao also curled his lips, thoroughly enjoying her affectionate approach. Holding his hand, her voice soft and sweet, she spoke to him in a coquettish tone. He thought to himself, if she asked for anything in this state, he would agree without hesitation. He would even give her his life. "Ching Ching just called me. She's at the company and asked me to go shopping with her and have dinner out," seizing the moment while her third brother was in a good mood. Tang Wanna quickly made her request. After a brief pause, she continued, "I already agreed, so, you should go back by yourself tonight. If we end up shopping too late, I'll just go back to my own place." Tang Wanna thoughtfully arranged everything, even worrying that returning too late might disturb her third brother. So she decided to stay at her own apartment tonight, or she could go back with Qing. They could chat and share secrets. Qin Hao's expression remained unchanged as he nodded and said, "All right, go ahead, I'll go back and eat by myself," deliberately emphasizing the words by myself. Then he added, "Call me when you're done shopping, and I'll come pick you up." He could accept eating alone, but he couldn't bear the thought of an empty house. No matter how late it was, he had to bring her back. "Then go back and eat by yourself. Don't go hungry. If it's too late, you don't need to come. It's too much trouble to go back and forth, we can just take a taxi," Tang Wanna said casually, not noticing third brother's unusual behavior. "All right, we'll talk about it tonight," Qin Hao replied. Tang Wanna, carrying her bag, was ready to leave, turning back every few steps. "Well, I'm leaving now." Third brother, Qin Hao, stood in place, waving at her. Though his hand was waving, he looked pitiful. After walking a few steps, Tang Wanna suddenly turned around and ran back to him. Qin Hao was taken aback and asked, "What's wrong? Did you forget something?" Tang Wanna stood in front of him, smiling as she stood on her tiptoes and quickly kissed him on the cheek. "I'm leaving, third brother," she said, then swiftly ran toward the elevator. Qin Hao stared dumbfoundedly in the direction she had gone, raised his hand to touch his cheek, and felt a sweetness spreading through his heart. As the elevator doors opened, Tang Wanna looked up and happened to see Qing inside. Qing spoke first. "We sisters really are so in sync. I was just about to go to the 15th floor to find you. Why is your face so red? Did you do something naughty?" No way, I was just running too fast," Tang Wanna said guiltily, even raising her hand to fan herself as if she were very hot. Qing linked arms with her. "You told my brother, right? Don't go back tonight. Come with me. It's been so long since I've held you while sleeping, and I really miss it." Qing deliberately phrased it in a way that sounded ambiguous. Tang Wanna nodded, thinking she would just give her third brother a call later to let him know. The two sisters happily headed out the door. Qing took Tang Wanna to have dinner first, a seafood buffet. Although neither of them had a big appetite, Qing loved the feeling of having a wide variety of options and being able to eat as much as they wanted. It was absolutely satisfying. The dining time was 2 hours. And the two of them really did eat for the full 2 hours. In the end, they were both quite full, but they still didn't forget to each grab an ice cream to take with them. Then the two of them began to stroll leisurely, taking the opportunity to digest all the food they had eaten that evening. Girls really have no end when it comes to shopping. It seems like they have to go into every store, from accessory shops, women's clothing stores, shoe stores. They went into all of them. Whether they buy anything or not isn't important. The process is what brings the most joy. Although the two of them had quite a haul, after browsing through one floor, they were already carrying several bags in their hands. Passing by an underwear store, Qing pulled Tang Wanna and rushed inside. Let's go in and take a look." Tang Wanna was practically dragged in by her. Underwear, she really didn't seem to need any. Qing, on the other hand, was full of enthusiasm. With the help of the shop assistant's recommendations, she tried on 2 sets in the fitting room. Both felt quite good and were comfortable to wear, so she bought them both. Then she came over to ask Tang Wanna, "Wanna, are you sure you don't want to take a look? If you don't want the regular ones, how about something a bit sexier?" After saying this, she squinted at Tang Wanna with a playful grin. Tang Wanna, being a bit shy, gave her a coquettish glare and said, "Qing." Qing raised her hands in surrender, admitting she was wrong, but couldn't resist adding, "How about buying some for my brother? He'd definitely be thrilled, trust me. I can give something else, like a shirt or a tie. I'll go take a look later." Tang Wanna was puzzled. Why did it have to be underwear? It was so embarrassing. Giving those things isn't as alluring as giving underwear, Qing said bluntly, then picked up a set of black couple's underwear and handed it to Tang Wanna. "How about this set? Take a look." Tang Wanna reluctantly took it and silently examined it. It was quite nice and felt comfortable to the touch. It's just probably too small. Chapter 378 Couple Underwear. The black couple underwear that Qing handed to her, the men's style was nothing special, just plain and ordinary. However, the women's style was a bit unusual. It had transparent black lace edges, and the waist was tied with a thin string. There's way too little fabric. How am I supposed to wear this?" Tang Wanna usually wore cotton underwear, often with cute cartoon patterns. This kind, she had never actually bought before, so, when she saw the women's style, her first reaction was to put it down in refusal. Qing, noticing her action, immediately stopped her and asked, "What's wrong? Don't you like it?" "This has too little fabric," Tang Wanna whispered softly as she looked down at the black underwear. Qing rolled her eyes at her and said, "This is called design. who buys clothes based on how much fabric there is. It's all about the design. If you don't believe me, ask your sister-in-law. Those in the fashion industry will tell you that design is the most valuable part. And besides, it's not that revealing. Everything that should be covered is covered. It's not like that battle suit I gave you last time. This is just a normal pair of underwear. Okay. As she spoke, Ching Ching stuffed the underwear back into Tang Wanna's hands. The sales assistant nearby also smiled and explained that this was this year's new style and was selling like hotcakes. With both of them recommending it, Tang Wanna felt a bit overwhelmed. Still unsure, she asked hesitantly, Is this really appropriate? Appropriate, it's more than appropriate. Ching Ching clapped her hands together and was about to go pay for it. Let's go pay, and we can get my brother to reimburse us later. Tang Wanna quickly grabbed her. Hey, wait a minute. What's wrong? You can't back out now, Ching Ching said, clutching the underwear tightly, afraid she would say she didn't want it. Tang Wanna blushed, hesitated for a moment, and then said awkwardly, It's too small, under Ching Ching's gaze. Her face flushed even redder as she quietly exchanged the black men's underwear for a larger size, according to third brother's measurements. Before going to check out, Ching Ching stared dumbfounded at her actions. After Tang Wanna finished paying, she immediately pulled her aside and, imitating a scene from a TV drama, spoke with feigned seriousness. Student Tang Wanna, I, the judge, now formally interrogate you. Leniency for those who confess, severity for those who resist. Quickly confess truthfully. How far have things progressed between you and my brother? Tang Wanna rubbed her nose, her eyes darting around evasively, looking extremely guilty. It seemed like nothing had happened. Yet it also felt like everything had happened. Anyway, she definitely couldn't confess. It was too embarrassing to say out loud, seeing her shy yet charming expression. Ching Ching's eyes grew brighter and wider, almost screaming as she asked, Did you succeed in taking him down? Am I going to be an aunt? Tang Wanna was terrified by her reaction and quickly covered her mouth, urgently saying, Keep your voice down. Ching Ching, barely containing her excitement, nodded repeatedly and deliberately lowered her voice to ask, Sorry, I got too carried away. Did you really devour my brother completely? Tang Wanna quickly reached out again to cover Ching Ching's mouth, only letting go when she made no sound. She softly explained, No, it's not like that. Ching Ching blinked her big, confused eyes, her face full of bewilderment. No. Then she looked at Tang Wanna and then at the underwear that had just been paid for, clearly not believing it at all. How could it not be? Were these two in a platonic relationship? In this situation, they still hadn't taken things to the next level. She even knew her brother's underwear size. Probably even their mom didn't know that, and yet she still wouldn't admit it. Tang Wanna felt like she couldn't explain herself clearly and tried her best to defend. Really, it's not like that. Living together, it's normal to know third brother's clothing size, isn't it? Living together and still not taking things further, is that normal? Ching Ching immediately retorted, widening her eyes in disbelief. This, Tang Wanna didn't know how to refute. Ching Ching shook her head in disappointment. It seems my hope of becoming an aunt will have to be postponed again. This time Tang Wanna reacted quickly. Anyway, you'll be able to do it sooner or later. Oh, so full of confidence. Come on, I'll take you to buy a few more sets of battle attire. I guarantee my brother won't be able to take his eyes off you once he sees you. Ching Ching pulled Tang Wanna forward, really intending to take her shopping for battle attire. Tang Wanna quickly stopped and dismissed the idea. No, that's not urgent. Let's go buy a shirt for third brother instead. Then she pulled Ching Ching into the men's clothing store, carrying their newly acquired spoils from the lingerie store, along with several large bags from earlier. The two of them went on another shopping spree in the men's clothing store. In the end, Tang Wanna bought 2 shirts and a tie for Chin Hao, while Ching Ching wandered into a shoe store and bought a pair of high heels. Finally feeling satisfied, both of them were holding full shopping bags, and Ching Ching was about to hail a taxi to go back. Tang Wanna also took out her phone and called Chin Hao, planning to tell him that she wouldn't be going back tonight and that he should rest early. The call was answered after just one ring. Third brother, are you still busy with work? Otherwise, his phone wouldn't be right beside him. Only when he was working would he keep his phone on the desk. Yeah, I'm done. Are you guys finished shopping? Chin Hao's voice, as cool and clear as spring water, came through the phone, refreshing the heart and mind. Yeah, I'll go back to sleep with Ching Ching tonight. You should rest early and don't need to come pick me up, Tang Wanna said. Where are you now? Chin Hao asked on his own, as if he hadn't heard Wanna say she wasn't coming back tonight. Tang Wanna was taken aback for a moment, then obediently replied to Chin Hao, we just walked out of the mall, and Ching Ching is hailing a taxi. Give her your phone, Chin Hao said, Tang Wanna was puzzled but still walked over to Qin Qing and handed her own phone to her. Qin Qing looked at her with a confused expression, her eyes asking, "Why are you giving me your phone?" Tang Wanna patiently explained, "It's third brother. He seems to have something to discuss with you." Qin Qing, still confused, took the phone and heard her brother's voice on the other end. "Qing Qing, go back by yourself," he said bluntly, without any preamble, directly telling Qin Qing to return alone. Qin Qing immediately retorted angrily, "Why, I?" Before she could say another word, Qin Hao on the other end of the line cut in, "Starting next month, your allowance will increase by 20,000. Qin Qing was taken aback, her gaze involuntarily shifting to Tang Wanna, who looked back at her with a bewildered expression, unaware that her brother, the cunning one, was already trying to bribe her. Qin Qing slightly turned her body, lowered her voice, and began to bargain, 30,000. Deal, Qin Hao agreed without a moment's hesitation. This made Qin Qing secretly regretful. She should have said 50,000. 30,000 was too low. She had underestimated the possessiveness of an older man who had just won over the person he had liked for many years. Chapter 379. Are you sure it's me? After hanging up the phone, Qin Qing's eyes wandered, and she walked guiltily over to Tang Wanna, facing her friend's sincere gaze. She couldn't help but feel that she shouldn't have done this, but then again, since Wanna had liked her brother for so long, wasn't she just creating an opportunity for them? Wanna would surely forgive her. With that thought, she felt somewhat justified again. Tang Wanna took the phone and asked with concern, "Qing Qing, what's wrong? What did third brother want?" It's all about our dear mother. We haven't been back home much recently, and Mom has been nagging again. My brother asked me to go back tonight to keep her company. So, Qin Qing said, unconsciously touching her nose. Telling lies was really nerve-wracking. Upon hearing this, Tang Wanna immediately said, "Then you should go back. We can reschedule for another day. There's plenty of time." "But, what about you? We already agreed to have a sisters' heart-to-heart talk until dawn tonight." Qin Qing still felt quite regretful. It was all her brother's fault. Offering so much money, "I'll just take a taxi home myself. It's very close to my apartment. Only about 20 minutes by taxi. You should head back quickly, it's getting late, and Auntie and the others are probably already asleep," Tang Wanna urged. It was convenient for her to get back from here. Whereas if Qing Qing went back to the Qin residence, it would take an hour by taxi. No, you don't need to take a taxi by yourself. My brother just called and said he's coming to pick you up. He's probably already on his way. Qin Qing quickly brought up what her brother had instructed. "Is third brother coming? I already told him to rest early and not bother picking me up." Tang Wanna was a bit puzzled. He's coming. How could he not come to pick up his own girlfriend at this late hour? "Just wait here. I've already sent him the location. He should be here soon. I'll head off first." Then, Qin Qing instructed. The taxi she had called had already arrived, carrying her bags. She turned back repeatedly to remind Tang Wanna to wait for her brother. After Qin Qing got into the car, she rolled down the window and waved goodbye to Tang Wanna. Watching Wanna standing obediently like a little white rabbit at the entrance of the mall, waving and reminding her to send a message when she got home, she felt a bit guilty. The 30,000 yuan her brother gave her had to be split, with 20,000 going to Wanna each month, otherwise, she wouldn't feel at ease spending it. Tang Wanna stood at the entrance of the mall with several shopping bags beside her. Qin Qing had taken her own share, leaving behind the rest. Some for Wanna herself and some for third brother, which amounted to 5 or 6 bags. After seeing Qin Qing off, she planned to call third brother again. Qing Qing had mentioned that he had already left home, but she wasn't sure how far he had gotten. Just as Tang Wanna took out her phone, a car pulled over by the roadside right in front of her. She looked up and saw third brother sitting in the driver's seat, wearing grey loungewear, leaning against the rolled-down window with one hand. A slight smile curling at the corners of his mouth as he looked at her, her face immediately lit up with a sweet smile. "Third brother, how did you get here so quickly?" Actually, Qin Hao had left home early, keeping an eye on the time. When Tang Wanna called him, he was already on the road. Qing Qing and she usually shopped at only 2 or 3 places, so it was easy to guess where they were. That was why he managed to pick up Tang Wanna so quickly. Qin Hao opened the car door and stepped out, walking over to Tang Wanna and picking up the several bags beside her. His thin lips, slightly parted, carried a trace of imperceptible gentleness as he asked, "What did you buy?" "Clothes and shoes. I bought some for you too." Tang Wanna got into the car with Qin Hao, answering with a beaming smile, clearly very happy. Shopping is the best way to relieve stress. Who doesn't love buying things? "I have a gift too." Qin Hao sat in the driver's seat, the sleeves of his grey loungewear half rolled up, his hands resting casually on the steering wheel. Tang Wanna tilted her head to look at him and happened to catch sight of the faint blue veins on his pale arm. She quickly turned her head away and said, "Yes. I bought a shirt and a tie." As for the underwear, she decided not to mention it. She would quietly tuck it into the drawer once they got back. Qin Hao was genuinely surprised and delighted to hear Tang Wanna say she had bought clothes for him too. Without realizing it, he pressed down harder on the accelerator, eager to get home and unwrap the gifts. The car was a bit quiet, so Tang Wanna casually asked, "Third brother, have you had dinner?" "Yeah, I had some dumplings." Qin Hao nodded, a smile lingering on his lips the whole way. After getting home in the evening, he had just boiled some dumplings to fill his stomach. With Wanna not around, he hadn't been in the mood to cook properly. "Actually, if you're busy, you don't need to go out of your way to pick me up. I can just take a taxi back to the apartment. All my things are there, and it's quite convenient." Tang Wanna knew that third brother usually had to work from home for an hour or two in the evenings, so she really didn't want him to go through the trouble of driving back and forth. "I'm not busy tonight," Qin Hao still said with a slight smile. "Oh, I was afraid you were too tired," Tang Wanna said softly with her head lowered. The car had already stopped. They were home. Qin Hao reached out and touched Tang Wanna's head, looking at her with a doting expression. The smile in his eyes clear, as if gathering the gentle glow of moonlight, radiant and flowing. His gentle gaze rested quietly on her, his handsome lips curved in a smile, and then he asked, "Do you really not want me to work so hard?" Tang Wanna looked up, meeting Qin Hao's gaze. Her large, sparkling eyes looked at him as she nodded seriously. I don't want to." Qin Hao paused for a moment and said slowly, "Then, why don't you move in with me, in the quiet night, in the quiet parking lot?" His voice was mesmerizing. Tang Wanna was stunned, her voice soft and slow as she said, "Aunt, we already living together." She hadn't been back to her own apartment for quite some time. She had planned to go back tonight, but third brother came to pick her up, and she ended up not going back. Qin Hao suddenly broke into a wide grin, his eyes crinkling as if sparkling with starlight, the corners of his mouth lifting to reveal a few clean, white teeth. "All right, then let's take tomorrow off and go to your place to move all your things over." Tang Wanna was stunned. "What's wrong? If we're living together, aren't you going to move all your things over?" Qin Hao continued with a smile. "Oh," Tang Wanna thought about it and felt that what third brother said seemed right. She did have a lot of things at her own apartment, although she often stayed at third brother's place now. She hadn't moved her belongings over, which sometimes made things inconvenient. But Tang Wanna fixed her dark eyes seriously on Qin Hao, her expression unusually earnest and solemn. "Third brother, are you sure it's me? Such an outstanding third brother. Are you sure the person you want to spend the rest of your life with is me?" Chapter 380, Who Else But You? Upon hearing Tang Wanna's words, Qin Hao put away the smile on his face and looked at her with the same seriousness and solemnity, gazing directly into her eyes, with a tone that was both incredibly gentle and overwhelmingly domineering. He said, "I fell for you when I was just a teenager. Who else could it be but you?" Moreover, Tang Wanna also detected a hint of grievance. Then, without waiting for Tang Wanna to react, he directly cupped the back of her head, leaned in, and pressed down, not letting go until he had kissed her until her face flushed red and she went limp all over. He then held her in his arms, both of them able to hear each other's wildly beating hearts. Qin Hao whispered in her ear, "Do you hear it, this heart beating for you?" As he spoke, he took her small hand and placed it over the left side of his chest, continuing in a muffled voice, "You still don't believe me even now, you might as well just anger me to death." Qin Hao truly felt extremely wronged. When he mentioned marriage, this little fool didn't seem to hear a thing. When he suggested moving in with him, she doubted whether he would change his mind in the future. He had no idea which part had gone wrong. Could it be, since they had been together, it was inevitable that things would get heated, but every time they were intimate, he desperately restrained himself, stopping at the last moment. He would rather take a cold shower himself than risk scaring her. Seeing how nervous she trembled beneath him, he couldn't bring himself to think only of his own desires, and the beautiful nights he always wanted to save for the wedding night. So he kept holding back. Could it be because he hadn't fully claimed her, making the little girl overthink? Tang Wanna leaned against Qin Hao's shoulder with a flushed face, listening to his heavy breathing and feeling his rapidly beating heart, which matched the rhythm of her own. As she heard him complain with grievance that he had liked her since his teens, her heart fluttered. From their teens to their 30s, how could she feel that she had truly delayed her third brother? Qin Hao released his arms but still couldn't resist reaching out to pinch her rosy little cheek. He then threatened, "If you say such things again in the future, I will eat you." The last few words were whispered right by her ear. Tang Wanna instantly felt her face as hot as a boiled duck. and her whole body seemed to float away. It wasn't until Chin Hao held her hand, got out of the car, took the elevator upstairs, and returned to the apartment that she finally snapped back to reality. Her heart was still racing wildly. Oh no. She actually found this domineering and forceful third brother even more captivating. After entering the room, Chin Hao placed a few bags on the sofa, then, pulling the still-stunned Wanna to sit beside him, he pointed at the bags and asked for the gift he had been looking forward to all evening. Where's my gift? Tang Wanna was momentarily stunned, then handed over the bag containing the shirt and tie she had bought earlier. Chin Hao happily took the bag and couldn't wait to open it. What is this? Chin Hao asked, holding a box in his hand. It didn't look like a tie. Tang Wanna turned her head and saw the box in her third brother's hand, her eyes widening instantly. How did the underwear end up in this bag? She flusteredly lunged forward, trying to take it back, stammering, "This isn't for you." Chin Hao stretched out his long arm and moved the box away. Seeing Wanna's nervous expression, he suddenly became interested in the contents of the box, even though he hadn't been curious before. Not for me. Can't I take a look? Tang Wanna pretended to be calm as she sat back in her seat, feeling trapped. She had intended to quietly put it away in the drawer. How did it end up in her third brother's clothing bag? She inwardly lamented. Finally, she steeled herself and said, If you want to look, then go ahead. Then she pretended to organize her own purchases, occasionally stealing a glance at her third brother. After Chin Hao opened the box, he was visibly taken aback. He hadn't expected it to be underwear either. The box had no writing on it, so there was no way to tell. He turned to look at the young girl, whose face was flushed bright red. Chin Hao pulled out the entire contents, and 2 pairs of underwear fell into his hands. His pair, the men's one, was fine. Just a normal style of underwear with good texture, but the women's one, it was just too sexy. When had the little girl ever worn something like this? Chin Hao looked at the 2 pairs of underwear in his hands, then turned to glance at Wanna. Not only had the little girl bought underwear for herself, but she had also bought a matching couples set. Countless scenes flashed through Chin Hao's mind, finally settling on the memory of the 2 of them at the beach last time. When Wanna had been drinking and wearing a uniform, he unconsciously swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing up and down. He even began to wonder if he should let the little girl have a drink tonight. Moreover, he strongly suspected that the little girl was indirectly complaining to him about not having taken things all the way with her. Chin Hao pursed his lips slightly and turned to look at Wanna, who had been keeping her head down and busily organizing things. In a hoarse voice, he asked, Wanna, is this for me? Tang Wanna wished she could find a crack in the ground to crawl into right now. Out of the corner of her eye, she caught sight of the 2 pairs of underwear in third brother's hand and felt utterly embarrassed. She nodded hastily and replied, Chin Hao slightly curled the corners of his mouth and spoke again in an extremely hoarse voice. Thank you, Wanna, I really like them. After saying that, he handed the other pair to Tang Wanna. This seems to be yours. Tang Wanna turned around, her face flushed bright red, snatched it over, and quickly stuffed it into a bag. Then, picking up several bags, she stood up and said, I'll take these inside first. With that, she dashed quickly into her room. Chin Hao watched her retreating figure with an affectionate smile, then looked down at the underwear in his hand, his smile growing even wider. Alone in the living room, he took out the shirts and tie, trying both on carefully. As he tried them on, he silently praised in his heart. That little girl has really good taste. The shirts look great. He spent a full half-hour outside trying on the clothes by himself before finally folding the 2 shirts neatly as if they were treasures and carrying them into the room. Tang Wanna had already taken a shower and hidden under the covers. Tonight, she felt that third brother seemed a little different from before. He wouldn't have said such things in the past. The words "eat her" had her overthinking all night long. And then there were the underwear Ching Ching insisted she buy, which third brother ended up seeing. Even she felt embarrassed looking at those 2 strings, so she had already stuffed them to the bottom of her suitcase. She thought she definitely wouldn't be taking them out to wear. Later on, Tang Wanna belatedly realized that all her underwear had been replaced with matching couple sets in the same color as third brother's. What's more, someone thoughtfully laid them out for her in the bathroom every night, insisting they wear matching pairs. Chapter 381. Presenting the betrothal gifts in the capital. Tang Yichen and Lin Shu went to Beijing a week before the 2 little ones, Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunior, started school. The betrothal gifts listed on Grandpa's engagement letter were all prepared without missing a single item. The family of 4 boarded the plane to Beijing, and the 2 little ones were extremely happy to see their maternal grandparents and uncle again. According to custom, there should be an elder from Tang Yichen's side accompanying them. However, Grandpa was too old for such a long journey, and Lin Shu couldn't bear the thought. Besides, they had been married for so long and their children were already this big, so she felt it wasn't necessary to follow every rule strictly. She believed Tang Echen's intention was enough. From the moment they learned about the wedding, Dad he and Mom he started preparing the dowry. Lin Shu's dowry was no less than the betrothal gifts from Grandpa Tang. Dad he and Mom he gave everything to their daughter without keeping anything for themselves, instantly turning Lin Shu into a little rich woman. Tang Echen even jokingly said, "Wife, from now on I'll have to rely on you to support me." Lin Shu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had transferred his JK shares to her, and he wouldn't get up from his kneeling position until she signed, but she knew nothing about these matters. Tang Echen said it didn't matter, she could just hire him to work for her. Tang Echen's transfer of company shares to Lin Shu truly shocked Mo Ziyi, Qin Hao, and the others. This was all of their eldest brother's assets, and he gave them to his wife without a moment's hesitation. They even joked that from now on, they would all be working for their sister-in-law. On their first day in Beijing, He Jingyan personally went to the airport to pick up their family of 4. When they arrived home, his parents had already prepared the engagement banquet, and all the relatives and friends were present. The hall was decorated with a festive atmosphere, and her and Tang Echen's names were displayed closely together in the hall, in the center of the room. There were plenty of red dates, lilies, lotus seeds, longans, and candies, all adorned with the character for double happiness. Both Lin Shu and Tang Echen were taken aback when they walked in, and Lin Shu's eyes instantly welled up with tears. Her parents were truly preparing to marry off their daughter with great care. Tang Echen gently squeezed her hand. His little wife was moved once again. He hadn't expected his parents-in-law to prepare so meticulously, and he was also deeply touched. Following the customs and traditions of Beijing, his parents went through all the procedures of the engagement banquet. Lin Shu and Tang Echen cooperated by changing into formal attire and, after getting ready, walked out hand in hand to greet their relatives and friends. Many of them were relatives they had met last time, and upon seeing them, they warmly rushed forward to offer congratulations. Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo had long since blended in with the other children. Playing joyfully on the lawn, the grand engagement ceremony made Lin Shu feel as if she were rehearsing her wedding day in advance. From the moment they entered the venue, it wasn't until evening that the guests had mostly departed. Tang Echen led Lin Shu to sit on the sofa and rest. Mother he walked over with a beaming smile and said to the two of them, "Since not all our relatives and friends from here can make it to the wedding in Jiangcheng, we decided to invite everyone to today's engagement banquet for a simple meal in advance. You must be exhausted, my dear." "I'm not tired, Mom, you're the one who worked hard, preparing so much." Lin Shu smiled gently at her mother, deeply touched by how thoughtfully she had taken care of everything. "What hard work, I just gave the directions and left it to your dad and brother to handle." Mother he didn't take any credit at all and said cheerfully, indirectly praising her son and husband. Lin Shu grinned widely, and Tang Echen, sitting beside her, also smiled slightly. At that moment, Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo ran in and stopped in front of Lin Shu and the others. Lin Yunuo tilted her head and looked at her mother, asking, "Mom, did you marry Dad today?" Lin Yuqing, standing beside her, replied, "Dad and Mom got married a long time ago. Otherwise, how could we be here?" But Brother Lele just said that Dad and Mom got married today. The little girl had just heard the older brother she was playing with say that her parents got married today and came specifically to confirm it. Tang Echen pulled his daughter closer to him, smiling as he explained, Nuo and her brother are both right." The little girl was even more confused. Blinking her big eyes and tilting her head, she looked absolutely adorable as she said to Tang Echen in her sweet, childish voice, "Daddy, Nuo doesn't understand." All 3 adults present burst into laughter. Grandma he bent down and explained to her granddaughter, Nuo, your mom and dad did get married a long time ago, but back then, there was no engagement party or wedding ceremony, so today is the engagement party, and in a few days, when we return to Jiangcheng, there will be a wedding too." Listening to Grandma's explanation, the 2 little ones seemed to understand. Mom and Dad were going to have a wedding, just like the ones on TV. "I want to attend Mom and Dad's wedding too." Lin Yunuo raised her hand high. Lin Shu smiled as she looked at her son and daughter. "Of course Nuo will attend. And Cheng will too. How about Nuo and her brother being the flower children together?" "Okay," the 2 little ones answered in unison, their faces beaming with bright smiles, utterly delighted. The family of 4 stayed in Beijing for 5 days before returning to Jiangcheng. If it weren't for Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo about to start school, they wouldn't have been willing to leave. During their days in Beijing, Lin Shu saw her brother at home every day. She found it quite strange. Hadn't he said he was very busy before? Why didn't he need to go to work now, when Lin Shu asked. She found out that her brother was actually planning to resign. Her brother's exact words were, "Your husband doesn't care for the family business, and Dad is getting older. Shouldn't I retire from my current role and work to earn money for you all?" Is Dad going to retire? Lin Shu asked. Dad has been wanting to retire for a long time, but there just hasn't been a successor. I thought your husband would be willing to help manage things together. He said he transferred all his shares to you and is now working for you, saying he doesn't want to get involved at all. He Jingyan knew that Tang Yichen didn't care about their family business. He just didn't want people to think that their parents had given all the family assets to their daughter. In fact, he had long known that he would eventually have to come back and take over his father's company. During those years as an undercover agent, he couldn't contact his family, couldn't reveal his identity, and was constantly in life-threatening danger. His parents had accepted it, their family's values were rooted in patriotism. Now that the case was solved and he was transferred back to Beijing, he felt that, given his age, it was better to resign outright rather than step back to a secondary role. Working steadily for his parents would also put his family at ease. That's great, if you can take over Dad's company. Mom and Dad must be very happy, Lin Shu said with a smile. Anyway, your older brother doesn't understand anything. You should have your husband guide him more in the future, once Dad's company grows. You'll get more dividends too, He Jingyan said with a laugh. The siblings chatted freely for over an hour about all sorts of topics before Lin Shu and the others departed. That night, after returning to her room, Lin Shu had to physically comfort a certain man who was feeling jealous. Lin Shu, I was just chatting with my brother, Tang Yichen, but I waited for you for so long. And now someone was acting all. Chapter 382 announcing the wedding date. After the family of four returned to Jiangcheng, Tang Yichen publicly announced the wedding date in a high-profile manner. Both the JK Group's official website and his personal Weibo account simultaneously shared this joyful news. Since the previous online controversy, he and Lin Shu had unexpectedly gained quite a few fans, attracting even more attention than some celebrities. Since neither of them frequently used Weibo, their fans eagerly awaited every piece of news about them. Even a casual update on Weibo would cause a small stir. Lin Shu occasionally shared snippets of her daily life, but Tang Yichen's Weibo account had remained inactive ever since the official announcement. Many fans directly left comments under Lin Shu's posts, asking her to relay their request to Mr. Tang. Could he find some time to update his Weibo and make sure he stays in sync with his wife? At the time, Lin Shu had jokingly shown Tang Yichen the comments from netizens. He had only smiled without saying a word. This time, when announcing the wedding date, he specifically emphasized, "Everyone's suggestions have been relayed by my wife, so, here's an update." He then attached their wedding invitation, clearly capturing the wedding date printed on it. The Weibo post quickly went viral, and aside from a flood of congratulations, netizens also made sure to praise Tang Yichen. "Mr. Tang is so efficient. He mentioned a wedding, and now it's happening. Yes, can we get a live stream of the wedding? I really want to see it." "Same here, hoping for a live stream. I want to watch it." "Did Mr. Tang design this invitation himself? I think I see a hand-drawn portrait." This netizen's comment received a direct reply from Tang Yichen himself, just two simple and straightforward words. "Yes." These two words immediately sent netizens into a frenzy, with many exclaiming, "This is truly someone else's husband." A live broadcast of the wedding ceremony is out of the question. Lin Shu said she wanted the wedding to be simple, warm, and not extravagant or wasteful. Tang Yichen quietly took note of this and is following his wife's wishes in every way. Since announcing their marriage, Lin Shu has become increasingly busy. Her studio's business is booming, with Chen Cici mainly handling the operations. However, as the saying goes, slow work yields fine results. Their custom-made pieces naturally have a long production cycle, especially during the design phase. As a result, orders are already scheduled into next year, and Lin Shu spends almost every night sketching design drafts. Tang Yichen was unwilling to see her work so hard. Lin Shu always said it was fine, and she genuinely loved designing. Tang Yichen wanted to tell her to stop working, but he held back. Instead, he suggested registering the studio under JK's name. After all, Lin Shu was now the major shareholder of JK Group, so it would essentially still be hers. This way, management would be easier, resources could be shared, and staff could be utilized collectively. Lin Shu thought it over seriously and said she would discuss it with Chen Cici when she had the chance. Since the studio was originally founded by the two of them, Tang Yichen wasn't in a hurry either. As long as his wife could have an easier time, that was all that mattered. After returning from Jing City, While the two kids were still on break, Tang Chen and Lin Shu specifically took them to the old house and then gathered everyone for a meal. This time, Tang Chen formally booked a private room at a 5-star restaurant, mainly because everyone had been a great help during the wedding preparations. Moreover, for Tang Chen's wedding, Mo Ziyi, Qin Hao, Ji Fengfan, and Lu Yang were undoubtedly going to be the groomsmen. There were also 4 bridesmaids: Tang Wanna, Qin Qing, Xia Qingqian, and Chen Sisi. Lin Muyao was also present during the meal, and he didn't mind at all that his girlfriend was a bridesmaid while he wasn't a groomsman. He graciously agreed to it. The wedding was planned for 30 tables, although it wasn't an extravagant affair. Just listing the guests casually came to nearly 30 tables. The group rarely had the chance to gather like this, and they chatted and enjoyed the meal so much that they were reluctant to part even late into the night. Qin Qing suggested holding a pre-wedding bachelorette party for Lin Shu, but Lin Shu smiled and shook her head. How could she still be considered single when her children were already so grown up? Sis, we need to have a sense of ceremony. I'll handle the planning, and you just need to show up. Let's make it clear up front. Only ladies are allowed, no gentlemen. Qin Qing was already brimming with excitement and couldn't wait. And planning was her forte anyway. Tang Wanna, Xia Qingqian, and Chen Sisi all raised their hands in agreement, unanimously declaring that a bachelorette party was a must. Tang Chen raised an eyebrow upon hearing that men weren't allowed. With a smirk, he said to Qin Qing, "Qing, it seems to me that what you're planning isn't a bachelorette party, it's more like a sisters-only party. Aren't there any single gentlemen among us?" Qin Qing immediately clapped her hands and decided to change the name. "Brother Tang is right, let's call it a sisters-only party then. I'll notify all the sisters once I've finished planning everything." Lu Yang jumped up directly. Qing, you're clearly not planning to include 5th brother in the fun." "5th brother, we won't be taking you along this time. Let us have some fun on our own. We'll definitely include you in the next event." Qin Qing squeezed next to Lu Yang and said flatteringly. In any case, she wasn't going to budge on allowing men to join her party, seeing how enthusiastic everyone was. Lin Shu didn't say anything more. She had no idea what kind of party Qing Qing would plan, but suddenly, she found herself looking forward to it. After the dinner gathering, Lin Shu and Tang Chen returned to the old house. Since it was already late, everyone had gone to bed, so the two quietly went upstairs to their own room. Grandpa had been overjoyed lately, but he was also particularly anxious, constantly asking Tang Chen whether he had bought this or prepared that. In short, Grandpa was tirelessly bustling about, worrying endlessly. The next morning, the couple took their 2 children and headed out early to return to Lin Shu's hometown. They paid their respects at the grave of Lin Shu's grandfather and shared the happy news of their upcoming wedding. Although Lin Shu's old house was regularly cleaned, it wasn't equipped to accommodate the family with 2 children, as it lacked almost everything. So, that evening, the family stayed at Gui Ping's sister-in-law's guest house. Gui Ping and his wife warmly welcomed them, preparing a large dinner with many farm-style dishes. They even brought out their own home-raised old hen to stew, along with roasted lamb leg and homegrown vegetables, making for a table full of delicious food. Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo were chasing ducks and a big rooster in the yard, their clothes and faces covered in mud. The two were seizing the last 2 days before school started, playing to their heart's content. Because they had expended so much energy, they ate a lot at dinner. Lin Shu watched as Lin Yunuo, who usually only ate a little rice at home, actually went to get more food. Although she didn't take much, it still surprised both her and Tang Chen. In the end, the little girl even drank a bowl of chicken soup after finishing her meal. After drinking it, she licked her lips and asked Lin Shu and the others with lingering satisfaction, "Mom, Dad, will we still have this chicken soup to drink when we go home?" After the little girl asked this, when they were leaving, Brother Gui Ping caught 2 old hens, slaughtered and cleaned them, insisting that they take them along. Chapter 383, Sisters Only Party. The exclusive pre-wedding sisters party planned by Qin Qing was held on the Saturday evening, 1 week before the wedding. All the ladies who received the notice arrived punctually at the location Qin Qing had specified. The address Qin Qing provided was the presidential suite of the most luxurious 5-star hotel in Jiangcheng. Everyone was puzzled. Why would the party be held in a hotel room? Lin Shu had assumed the party would be something like hanging out at Larosan's bar or going to a KTV to sing. She never expected it to take place in a hotel suite. The group arrived almost at the same time. Tang Wanna looked at the dazzling sign of the 5-star hotel and said uncertainly, "Did Qing Qing send the wrong address? I thought we'd go to a KTV to sing and then grab some barbecue. After all, that's how they usually celebrated." "I thought so too. It seems this exclusive sisters party is going to be quite different," Lin Shu said with a smile. I thought it would just be a meal together, Chen Cece remarked. Qingqing's planning is definitely going to bring a big surprise, Xia Qingqian added with a smile. Then the four ladies walked into the hotel together, apart from Qingqing. The planner, it seemed the others all had designated drivers. Qingqing had arrived early by herself and was waiting for everyone. So, after Tang Chen, Qin Hao, Ji Fengfan, and Lin Muyao, the four drivers dropped off their respective partners at the hotel entrance. Qin Hao invited them to his bar to wait together, ready to respond to the ladies' requests at any time. Lin Shu, Tang Wanna, and the other two took the elevator up to the top floor of the hotel. At the very end was the presidential suite. When they reached the door and saw it slightly ajar, Lin Shu, walking in front, pushed it open and went straight in. Ching! Before she could finish her words, she was startled by the bang sound of the party popper exploding. Then she saw Qingqing holding the party popper tube, jumping out from behind the door, and laughing loudly as she said, "Surprise! Welcome to the girls' party." As they walked in, they realized the presidential suite was decorated very warmly, with colorful balloons all along the way and roses on both sides. The tables in the room had been rearranged and combined into one large table. The table was filled with desserts, cakes, and plenty of alcohol. There really was a lot of alcohol, taking up half the table, with various wines, fruit wines, and drinks. Qingqing excitedly ran over, spread her arms, and said to everyone, "So, isn't it a surprise? Isn't it exciting? I've been here since morning preparing." As she spoke, she pointed to the bottles of alcohol and said, "Tonight, we won't leave until we're drunk. No one is allowed to go back. I learned some secret cocktail recipes online, and I'll mix some for you to try later." Tang Wanna stared blankly at everything in front of her, her eyes wide with disbelief, and said, "Qingqing, you're so capable. Did you prepare all this by yourself?" As she spoke, she couldn't help but give her a thumbs up. "Our Qingqing is really amazing." Lin Shu also chimed in with praise. "Do we really need to drink this much wine?" Xia Qingqian walked over and picked up a bottle of wine, then lowered her head to take a closer look. It seemed like she had seen this one at the head table during the celebration banquet before. "It probably isn't cheap. You have to finish it, I'm telling you. It'd be a waste not to. The wine in here was all secretly taken from my brother's wine cabinet. He only collects expensive ones. I can tell. Back when I was working, my boss used to give these kinds as gifts," Chen Cece said cheerfully. Since her job usually involved external communication, she was naturally articulate and outgoing, so she had already become quite familiar with them. "I also ordered some takeout that should be here soon. There's crayfish and barbecue. Basically, whatever you feel like eating tonight, we've got it. I rarely get to organize an event for everyone, so I'll make sure you're all satisfied." Qingqing said happily. The others were utterly impressed by her. She managed to do everything so perfectly on her own, while even if they all worked together, they might not achieve the same result. The surprise factor was absolutely off the charts. There's an even bigger surprise waiting for everyone later. Qingqing had already started opening the wine, pouring various drinks into a large bucket as she spoke. "Another surprise. This is already a huge surprise," Lin Shu said with a laugh. Xia Qingqian, who was helping to open the bottles, also smiled and said, "What other surprise is there? Qingqing, I've discovered you're absolutely a treasure girl. Whoever marries you will be truly blessed." That's right. I wonder who will be so fortunate to marry our Qingqing in the future." Tang Wanna chimed in as well. After Qingqing finished mixing the drinks, she poured a glass for everyone and said cheerfully, "I'd like to know who will be that lucky too." Everyone burst into laughter. Everyone raised their glasses and said in unison, "Cheers." Then they drank heartily. Lin Shu took a sip, nodded, and said, "It tastes good, Qingqing. Your mixing skills are so good you could work at your brother's bar." It's really good, not too strong on the alcohol taste." Xia Qingqian also nodded in agreement. "This suits me, it feels like it has no alcohol content." Tang Wanna foolishly took another sip, feeling as if she were drinking a soft drink. "Wanna, the alcohol content of this is actually quite high," Chen Cece said with a smile. "It's like a cocktail. Even though various mixes are added, the alcohol content is still there. It's easy to get drunk without even realizing it." Tang Wanna was so frightened that she quickly put down her glass. Third brother didn't like her drinking and had told her to drink less in the future. Qingqing filled her glass again. "If you get drunk, just sleep in bed. With two such big beds, what are you afraid of? We're not going back tonight anyway." "Alright, we'll listen to Qingqing tonight." Once Lin Shu made the decision, everyone stopped overthinking it. After all, they could just go to sleep later. Just then, a knock sounded at the door. Qingqing hurried over to answer it. Her order of barbecue and crayfish had arrived, carrying 2 large bags of takeout. She placed them on the table and announced, Okay, everything's here, the big surprise I prepared for you is about to be revealed. The four of them, who had been eating and drinking, all stopped at once. Their eyes turned toward her in unison. Tang Wanna asked blankly, "It can't be, the barbecue and crayfish, right?" "Of course not." As she spoke, Qin Ching brought over a large bag from the bedside table and dumped its contents onto the bed. The others were stunned, staring at the pile of colorful clothes spread across the bed, not yet grasping what it meant. Looking at the unfolded clothes, they seem like the battle outfits of Sailor Moon. But the pleated skirt is so short, and the top doesn't look quite right either. Could the size be wrong? Chapter 384, Uniforms. "What are these clothes for?" Lin Shu asked, then walked to the bed and picked up a skirt. "Ching, did you get the wrong size? Why is it so short?" It's not short, this is just the style," Qin Ching said while organizing the sets of clothes one by one and distributing them to everyone. The group stared at the clothes in their hands, completely dumbfounded. "How are they supposed to wear this? Ching, these clothes of yours? Could it be that you bought them from that shop last time?" Tang Wanna looked at the somewhat familiar clothes in her hand, glanced up at Qin Ching, then down at the clothes again, and finally couldn't help but ask, "Oh, they were having a promotion, buy one get one free, it was such a great deal, so I bought one for each of us, and I picked the most conservative ones. Apart from the skirt and top being a bit short, they're actually quite cute, hurry up and change into them. I specifically picked these matching outfits for tonight's girls' party." After explaining, Qin Ching urged everyone to change quickly. Indeed, aside from being a bit short, the style resembled the battle outfits from the old anime Sailor Moon *. Each of them had a white shirt, with different colored ties and skirts. "Wanna, how did you know where Ching bought these? What have you two been up to behind my back?" Xia Qingqian asked. Tang Wanna couldn't help but blush at the thought of the two outfits still buried at the bottom of her drawer. Qin Ching quickly stepped in to cover for her. "Qian, let's talk about that another time. Do we really have to wear this?" Chen Cece held the outfit that Qin Ching had forcefully handed to her and looked around at everyone. Lin Shu, who had also been handed a set, felt as if it were burning her hands. "Oh, just go try them on first, it's just us here, no one else. If you're not comfortable, you can always change back, okay?" Qin Ching spared no effort in persuading, pushing Lin Shu into the bathroom first. After about 5 or 6 minutes, the bathroom door opened gently. Lin Shu came out wearing the sister-themed uniform Qin Ching had prepared. The shirt was fine, but the skirt was really short. Unaccustomed to it, she kept tugging it downward. Ching, this skirt is way too short, I think I'll go change back." As she turned to go back and change, Qin Ching grabbed her. "Wait, sister-in-law, come take a look, everyone. Don't you think my taste is great? It really looks beautiful, mature yet still youthful. If Brother Tang saw you, he'd be completely mesmerized." Qin Ching spun Lin Shu around, showing off the outfit she had picked to prove her excellent taste. Seeing that Lin Shu had already changed, the others felt less resistant. After all, it was just the few of them in the room, and under the influence of alcohol, everyone seemed to grow bolder. They took turns going to the bathroom to change into the sister-themed uniforms. Qin Ching excitedly took out her phone to take pictures of everyone, with their good figures and pretty faces. All dressed in matching outfits, they truly made a stunning sight. Tangichen and the others were drinking at the bar and had also invited Lu Yang and Mo Ziyi to join them. Mo Ziyi had recently returned from abroad specifically to attend Tangichen's wedding and planned to stay in Jiangcheng for a while. Unaware that the women were planning to stay up all night, the men grew bored after drinking for a while. Lu Yang suggested playing mahjong, and before long, they started a game right in the bar. Upstairs, there was a private room with a mahjong table, their exclusive game room, prepared for times when they felt like playing mahjong while drinking. As soon as Lu Yang entered the door, he couldn't wait to sit at the table, shouting that he wanted to win back the money he had lost to his older brothers last time. Hurry up, tonight, I must redeem myself from the shame." He wasn't originally interested in mahjong, but after playing once, he found it quite fun and now always rushes to the table every time. "You say that every time?" Tangichen also sat down, not sparing Lu Yang any face as he directly called him out. "Go on, tell us which car you're planning to lose to your brothers this time." Ji Fengfan also teased with a laugh, after Qin Hao and Mo Ziyi entered the room. They immediately sat down on the sofa and let Lin Muyao take the lead at the table to play against the three of them. The two of them picked up their phones and started playing games. After one round, Lu Yang lost again. Ji Fengfan chuckled and said, "So, Xiao Wu, have you decided which car from your garage you're going to give up? Let's keep going, it's not over yet. Why does it have to be me who loses?" Lu Yang was unconvinced. Usually, it was third brother at the table, and the three of them ganged up on him, so he always ended up losing. But today was different, with someone else in the mix. The dynamics had changed, so, tonight, he was determined to prove himself. Alright, let's continue then. Tang Chen curled his lips into a smile as he looked at Liu Yang, seeing his eldest brother's smile. Liu Yang couldn't help but shiver. His brother's smile was undeniably handsome, but did he have to direct it at him? He had a feeling that tonight, he would be the only one losing again. Woo-woo. Qin Hao sat on the sofa playing several rounds of games, then couldn't resist opening WeChat and sending Tang Wanna a sticker, a very cute little girl with the text, "Where's my little cutie?" This was one Tang Wanna had sent him earlier, which he had saved because he thought the little girl was quite adorable. If they were to have a daughter in the future, she would surely be just as cute. After sending the sticker, he didn't receive a reply for a long time. Qin Hao couldn't focus on playing games anymore. Usually, the two of them would stick together every evening, and now, after just a few hours apart, he felt as if days had passed. Mo Ziyi noticed him frowning slightly and not really playing the game, so he put down his phone, patted Qin Hao's shoulder, and asked, "What's wrong? You seem distracted. It's only been a few hours since you parted ways with Wanna." Mo Ziyi hit the nail on the head. Qin Hao's demeanor clearly showed he was head over heels in love. Qin Hao turned to look at Mo Ziyi, a slight smile curling his lips. "Second brother, you saw right through me." Mo Ziyi smiled back, and the two raised their glasses for a toast. In truth, among the five of them, Mo Ziyi was the most observant. He had noticed long ago that Qin Hao had feelings for Wanna and that Wanna treated Qin Hao differently. So, when he heard they were together, he wasn't surprised at all. He felt it was bound to happen sooner or later. After all, whenever Wanna went out with them, she would always hover around Qin Hao, and the way she looked at him carried a hint of shyness, unlike the straightforward way she looked at the rest of them. As for Qin Hao, he was indulgent. Unbelievably indulgent and doting toward Wanna. What else could that be if not love? So, in his eyes, the signs were clear for both of them. Chapter 385 almost got a nosebleed. "Looks like we'll be drinking Big Brother's wedding wine soon. When will we get to drink yours?" Mo Ziyi set down his glass and asked with a smile. "I definitely want to marry her as soon as possible, but I don't know what the little girl is thinking." Qin Hao openly admitted his thoughts in front of Mo Ziyi. They had been through life and death together for so many years, and the few of them rarely kept secrets from each other. At the moment, while the others were enthusiastically playing mahjong, with Lu Xiaowu's excited or sighing sounds occasionally coming from the private room, the two brothers on the sofa took the rare opportunity to have a heart-to-heart talk. If you don't know what someone is thinking, just ask. You still haven't figured it out after all this time. That girl Wanna is completely devoted to you. How could she possibly refuse? Mo Ziyi felt that a refusal would be completely unreasonable. Based on his observations over such a long time, he was certain he wasn't mistaken. It seemed that Qin Hao, being too close to the situation, was unable to see things clearly. "Well, thank you, second brother." Last time he brought up marriage, the little girl had fallen asleep. Thinking back, it felt a bit hasty. Whatever others have, their Wanna should have too. So later, he specially custom-made an engagement ring, planning to propose formally. "Second brother, how long are you staying this time? Have you found the person you were looking for?" Qin Hao continued to ask. Actually, their overseas market operations were now mostly stable, and second brother didn't need to stay abroad long-term anymore. But they had always heard that second brother was looking for someone, and they didn't know if he had found them. They all hoped second brother would spend more time in Jiangcheng so they could meet up more often. "I'll be staying a bit longer this time. There have been some leads." Mo Ziyi lowered his gaze to his wine glass, pausing briefly before answering. His mind drifted to the person he had run into at the airport when he returned to the country last time. It must have been her. The two chatted as they drank, finishing nearly half the bottle. Qin Hao picked up his phone but still hadn't seen a reply from Wanna. He thought to himself, wondering what kind of program that girl Qing Qing had planned. His younger sister had been full of clever and mischievous ideas since she was little, always dragging Wanna along with her antics. Tonight was bound to be lively with all of them together. The few people in the hotel suite were indeed having a great time. After changing clothes, they seemed to have let loose, as quite a few empty liquor bottles were scattered around. However, there was still plenty of food left on the table. As everyone had been focused on drinking, no one had organized any specific activities or games. They were simply relaxing wholeheartedly, enjoying a few drinks and chatting leisurely. A newly aired fantasy drama was playing on the TV, and everyone sat on the bed, watching it with great interest. Lin Shu and Tang Wanna had the lowest alcohol tolerance, so their faces were already flushed, and they were talking more than usual, wearing silly grins. The others, who often attended social events and could handle their liquor better, were relatively more sober. They all assumed that Tang-Chen and the others had left after dropping them off at the hotel, unaware that the group had gone to a bar to drink and play mahjong, still waiting to pick them up and take them home, in the bar's private room. The mahjong game had already gone through several rounds. Perhaps the magnetic field had truly shifted, as Lu Xiaowu didn't lose as much as usual tonight. Although he was still the only one losing, he considered it progress and kept telling Lin Muyao to invite him again next time they played mahjong. Tang-Chen smiled faintly without saying a word, thinking to himself that if he and Larosai hadn't been somewhat distracted in the second half of the game, Xiaowu wouldn't have lost so little. He glanced at his watch. It was almost 11 p.m. Lin Shu hadn't called him, and no one's phone in the private room had rung. It seemed things were balanced again, as everyone was in the same situation. It looks like the girls' party isn't over yet. Brother, stop checking the time all the time. Give your wife some freedom. It's a girls' party, after all. Look at third brother and fourth brother, they haven't received any calls either, which means their wives are having a great time. Let's keep going. I feel like I'm about to turn things around. My luck has been really good these last few rounds, Lu Yang hurriedly urged Tang-Chen, who kept glancing at his phone from time to time. The two who were called out, Ji Fengfan and Qin Hao, guiltily touched their noses. Both of them had secretly pulled out their phones to check countless times. Ji Fengfan, sitting across from Tang-Chen, looked up and happened to meet his gaze. The two understood each other without saying a word. Next, they had to play seriously and give Little Five a good beating. Lin Muyao had interacted with them a few times and had a rough idea of their temperaments. In the past, he had only heard of them or seen them in newspapers and magazines. They were figures beyond his reach. He never imagined that one day he would be sitting with them playing mahjong. The resort project he developed later received investment from Tang-Chen, with JK injecting a significant amount of funds. With sufficient capital, the project progressed smoothly, and its performance doubled compared to last year. He had previously bought a small apartment in Jiangcheng, but now, with Cici in his life, he planned to upgrade to a larger one in preparation for their future marriage. Qin Hao half squinted as he leaned back on the black leather sofa. The custom-made ring had just been picked up a few days ago, and he was thinking about how to propose. Should he follow his older brother's example and plan something to give the little girl a surprise? Lost in thought, his phone vibrated in his hand. He had been leaning against the sofa but now sat up, resting his elbows on his knees, seeing that Qin Qing had sent him a WeChat message. He picked up his glass with one hand and tapped open WeChat with the other, wondering to himself, isn't she at a party? How does she have time to message him? And why hasn't the little girl been paying him any attention for so long? As soon as he opened WeChat, Qin Hao saw the photo Qin Qing had sent him. The mouthful of wine he had just taken sprayed out instantly, and his cheeks and the tips of his ears quickly flushed red. He swore that if he had known it was such a photo, he wouldn't have picked up the glass to take that sip, nor would he have opened it in the private room. At the very least, he would have hidden in the bathroom. Mo Ziyi, sitting beside him, couldn't help but ask at his exaggerated reaction, "What's wrong?" "Nothing, second brother." Qin Hao cleared his throat, forcing himself to stay calm and trying to answer Mo Ziyi in as normal a tone as possible. Although he had only glanced at the photo before quickly looking away and locking his phone screen, his mind was now completely filled with the image he had just seen. Qin Hao saw Wanna wearing clothes similar to what she had worn at the beach hotel last time. The skirt was so short it barely covered her thighs, revealing her long, straight, snow-white legs. With an innocent look in her eyes, she gazed at the camera, and he felt as if she were looking directly at him. This was simply, all the blood in his body rushed to his head. Qin Hao tilted his head back, not daring to look down, because he felt like he was about to get a nosebleed. Chapter 386, 10,000 yuan per photo. Qin Qing had actually taken photos of everyone. But she only dared to send them to her brother. She didn't dare to bother her eldest brother or fourth brother, and she wasn't familiar enough with Lin Muyao, so she only sent the photos to Qin Hao. First, she sent the one of Tang Wanna just after she had changed her clothes, followed by a message, "Brother, here's the latest photo of our Wanna. Do you want it? 10,000 yuan per photo, payment upon delivery. There are plenty more where that came from." Qin Qing was happily making plans. After taking her brother's money, she planned to go on a trip with Wanna. She had some time off recently, and after attending Brother Tang and his wife's wedding, the two sisters could enjoy a few days of fun together. After sending the photos, Qin Qing eagerly awaited her brother's transfer. She waited for a long time, but there was no response at all. Where was their travel fund? Why wasn't her brother reacting at all? Wanna was wearing such clothes, and he showed no response. Maybe it wasn't tempting enough. After thinking for a moment, Qin Qing picked another photo of Wanna kneeling on the bed after drinking and sent it to her brother. She added a few words after the photo. Brother, if you're sure you don't want it, I'll delete it all, otherwise. If Wanna finds out, she'll kill me. Qin Hao was restless in the private room, his cheeks slightly flushed, and he seemed somewhat lost in thought, still stunned by the sight of Wanna in her sister's uniform. He gripped his phone tightly, then looked up at Tang Chen and Ji Fengfan, who were still sitting at the mahjong table. It seemed the eldest brother and the fourth brother hadn't checked their phones, but then again, it made sense. Qing probably wouldn't dare to bother them. At that moment, Qin Hao had only one thought: to rush to the hotel and bring the little girl home. He was just thinking when his phone vibrated again in his hand. This time, he didn't open it immediately. Instead, he took a few deep breaths, then leaned slightly against the sofa as if unintentionally, before opening WeChat. Although he had mentally prepared himself, seeing Wanna clearly drunk, her cheeks flushed red, propping her chin with one hand, her big eyes slightly drooping in a daze, she looked both adorable and confused. Sexy and captivating, Qin Hao's face flushed red again instantly, and his breathing grew rapid. He abruptly stood up from the sofa, ready to tell Tang Chen that he needed to pick someone up from the hotel. Mo Ziyi, noticing his unusual behavior, stood up with him. What's wrong, third brother? Mo Ziyi clearly sensed that something was off. Qin Hao turned to look at Mo Ziyi. It's nothing, second brother. I want to go pick up Wanna. Mo Ziyi smiled knowingly. It was getting late anyway. Tell the eldest brother, let's call it a night. Qin Hao nodded, immediately transferred 500,000 yuan to Qin Qing via his phone, and sent a message, send it all over. Then he strode off to find Tang Chen. Qin Qing had been waiting for her brother's WeChat message and simultaneously received the bank balance notification. When she saw the amount Qin Hao had transferred to her, her eyes widened, sparkling with excitement. Unable to contain herself, she tugged at Tang Wanna, who was already a bit dazed and leaning against her. Wanna, please don't be mad. In a while, I'll take you on a trip. We'll eat well and live lavishly. After all, it's all thanks to you that I earned this money. Tang Wanna kept giggling foolishly and nodded seriously. I'm not angry. Then she grinned at Qin Qing again, looking adorable and dazed. After receiving the money, Qin Qing sent all 7 or 8 photos she had just taken of Wanna to her brother. Feeling that the 50,000 was too much for just these few photos, she generously contributed some extra photos from her phone, previously taken tourist-style shots of the two of them making peace signs while hanging out. Tang Chen sat at the mahjong table, his shirt sleeves rolled up and the top 2 buttons of his collar undone, appearing both casual and stern. Just as he picked up a tile, his phone on the side rang. It was Lin Shu calling. He immediately answered the phone. Honey, is your party over? I'll come pick you up right away. His voice was incredibly gentle, his eyes filled with affection. The others at the mahjong table also paused, and upon hearing Tang Chen's words, they quietly began packing up, preparing to end the night's game. Lin Shu drank quite a few cocktails mixed by Qin Qing tonight, and she found them quite tasty. Unconsciously, she ended up drinking too much. With flushed cheeks and a dazed look in her eyes, she leaned against the bed, thinking about calling Tang Chen to tell him she wouldn't be coming home tonight. She searched everywhere for her phone and finally found it on the sofa. She sat down on the sofa, leaning against the backrest, and dialed Tang Chen's number. After drinking, her mind seemed to react slower. Hearing Tang Chen's voice coming through the phone, she giggled foolishly into the device and didn't speak for a long time. Tang Chen faintly heard some noise on the other end, along with Lin Shu's familiar, soft, and gentle laughter. Unable to help himself, he called out again, honey. At this point, Lin Shu seemed to finally find her voice. Tang Chen listened as her voice drifted in and out, saying, darling, we're staying at the hotel tonight. Go to bed early and don't wait for me. Without waiting for Tang Chen to respond, she hung up the phone directly. Honey. Tang Chen didn't have time to stop her before he only heard the beeping sound from the phone. He looked at his phone in disbelief, unable to believe the call had already ended. Ji Fengfan and Lin Muyao, who were both waiting to pick someone up, were staring at Tang Chen. Even Qin Hao had already come to stand by his side. Ji Fengfan saw that the phone call had ended and asked, Big brother, what did sister-in-law say? Are they done? Let's go pick them up now. Tang Chen stared at the darkened phone screen, clearly hesitating for a moment. She said, they're staying at a hotel tonight and not coming home. Staying at a hotel, Ji Fengfan, Qin Hao, and Lin Muyao exclaimed in unison. Mo Ziyi didn't show much of a reaction, but Lu Xiaowu, who was standing nearby, was somewhat startled. He cautiously spoke up, sister-in-law staying at a hotel, it's not really a big deal, is it? There are several of them. And hotels are safe. It's not like they'll get lost. After he finished speaking, no one paid him any attention. The three of them looked at Tang Chen. Qin Hao couldn't wait and said directly, "Big brother, let's just go pick them up. It seems they've been drinking too. It's always better to be safe." Tang Chen pursed his thin lips without a moment's hesitation. "All right, let's go." Then the four of them stood up energetically and left the private room. Lu Yang looked up and only saw their retreating figures before turning to Mo Ziyi. "Second brother." The two of them stared at each other, wide-eyed and bewildered. Mo Ziyi stood up and headed for the door, with Lu Yang quickly following behind. "Second brother, where are you going? Don't leave me alone." Going home, Mo Ziyi continued walking without stopping, uttering just two words, "Wait for me." Lu Yang hurriedly followed, leaving the two single individuals behind. Chapter 387, rushing to the hotel. Since Tang Chen and the others had all been drinking, they left the car in the bar's parking lot. After exiting the bar, they hailed two taxis and rushed back to the hotel. Fortunately, the bar wasn't too far from the hotel, and within about 20 minutes, the four of them had gotten out of the taxis and were standing at the hotel entrance. They headed straight for the presidential suite on the top floor. When they reached the door of the presidential suite on the top floor, all four of them stopped at the same time. The sound of a television came from inside the room, but aside from that, it was quite quiet, no wild commotion. Tang Chen raised his hand to ring the doorbell, pressing it several times, but no one came to answer. They exchanged glances, and Lin Muyao said, "Could something have happened?" "Probably not," Qin Hao replied. Thinking about the photos he had just received, it was unlikely they had gone out. Ji Fengfan said he would go to the front desk to get the key. Just as he turned around, they heard someone inside ask, "Who is it?" It was Chen Cici's voice, and she sounded relatively normal. Lin Muyao immediately responded, "Cici, it's me." The group waited patiently outside the door. After a while, they heard the sound of the lock clicking open, and a small head peeked out from behind the door. Chen Cici had a decent tolerance for alcohol and hadn't drunk much, so aside from her slightly flushed face and a bit of dizziness, she was still fully conscious. So when she opened the door and saw four people standing neatly outside, her mind went blank, and with a bang, she closed the door again. The people outside were left completely stunned, looking at each other, unsure of what had just happened. Lin Muyao snapped back to reality, stepped forward again, and pressed the doorbell. Chen Cici shouted from inside the house, "Wait a moment." Tang Chen and the others didn't know what was happening and just obediently waited outside. However, Qin Hao, having received the photos in advance, rubbed his nose and silently wondered if they had all changed into costumes. If so, it wouldn't be appropriate to go in. After closing the door, Chen Cici stood frozen for several dozen seconds. Then, looking at the people lying haphazardly on the bed, she couldn't help but let out a scream. Stumbling, she rushed to find her clothes and, relying on her remaining rationality, changed into them as quickly as possible. The matching sister outfits were hastily stuffed into her bag. Finally, she pulled the blanket over the people on the bed, making sure everyone was properly covered before going to open the door again. The people outside were still confused, and Chen Cici's scream startled them once more. Lin Muyao almost couldn't resist barging in. After a while, the door finally reopened. Chen Cici stood silently behind the door, her head slightly lowered and her eyes downcast. Her face was flushed, whether from drinking or nervousness, it was hard to tell. As soon as Lin Muyao entered, he walked over to her side, took her hand firmly, and the two of them followed at the back as everyone entered the room together. After Tang Chen and the others entered, they looked at the empty bottles on the table, the food scattered all over, and the balloons covering the floor, so shocked that they couldn't utter a word. They scanned the room but didn't see the person they were looking for in their hearts. Qin Hao turned to Chen Cici and asked with a hint of urgency, "Cici, where are Wanna and the others? Aren't they in the room?" Chen Cici pursed her lips, glanced at Lin Muyao, then replied somewhat guiltily in a soft voice, "They are." The expressions on their faces were now only filled with confusion. The room was only so big, could they all be in the bathroom? Chen Cici kept her gaze fixed on the large bed in the middle. "They are all on the bed." Upon hearing this, Tang Chen immediately strode toward the bed, and everyone else followed. As they approached, they indeed saw several sleeping little heads, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Tang Chen grabbed a corner of the blanket, preparing to lift it. But Chen Cici rushed forward to stop him. "Hey, wait a moment, President Tang." Tang Chen looked at her with a puzzled expression, as if asking why. Chen Cici gave an awkward, forced smile. Under the blanket, the girls were dressed in such a way, there was no way she could let President Tang just lift it. But what should she do? Ji Fengfan couldn't wait any longer either. "Cici, what's wrong? It's getting late, let's take them back to rest." Really, you can't lift it. Chen Cece braced herself, feeling dizzy and disoriented, only knowing to stubbornly clutch the corner of the blanket, blocking them. Qin Hao seemed to understand, coughing lightly as he pulled Tang Chen and Ji Fengfan aside, then said, "How about we wait outside for a bit?" Tang Chen and Ji Fengfan both pursed their lips and frowned at him. Qin Hao forcibly dragged the two away. Lin Muyao also followed them out. Upon reaching the door, Ji Fengfan asked directly, "Third brother, what's really going on?" Tang Chen also looked at him with a stern gaze. Qin Hao recalled the photo Qin Qing had just sent him, his eyes darting away as his ears began to turn red, his voice slightly hoarse. He said, They might be wearing very little." Tang Chen and Ji Fengfan were both taken aback. This was something they hadn't considered. Indeed, when a group of girls get together and end up sleeping in bed, they must have taken showers. No wonder Cece didn't let them lift the blanket. Good thing they didn't. Qin Hao didn't explain further. He wasn't entirely sure whether everyone had changed into that kind of clothing. The four of them stood outside the room again, waiting. Chen Cece was momentarily at a loss for what to do. She couldn't possibly change clothes for all of them by herself. She opened the wardrobe and searched. Pulling out a few bathrobes, she helped Lin Shu, Tang Wanna, and Xia Qingqian put them on. Fortunately, the girls weren't actually asleep, they were just drunk and dazed, but they could still cooperate with her a little. Otherwise, she really wouldn't have known what to do. There were only 3 bathrobes, so Qin Qing remained under the covers. Chen Cece figured that when they returned, Qing Qing could just spend the night at the hotel. Another 20 minutes passed before she finished. Tang Chen and the others were waiting anxiously outside the door, nearly out of patience. Just then, Chen Cece opened the door, leaning against it slightly out of breath, and said, "It's done." After the group re-entered the room, they saw their respective partners sitting on the carpet in hotel bathrobes, leaning halfway against the bed. Each person found their own, bent down, scooped them up in a princess carry, and walked out. Chen Cece finally breathed a sigh of relief once they were gone. As she relaxed, her dizziness seemed to intensify. She slowly slid down against the edge of the bed, but Lin Muyao rushed over in a flash and picked her up. Chen Cece looked up at him, then closed her eyes and rested peacefully in his arms as the two of them also left the room. Only Qin Qing remained in the presidential suite, still fast asleep. Chapter 388, President Tang Gets a Nosebleed. When Tang Chen picked up Lin Shu, she slightly opened her eyes and, seeing it was her closest person, curled her lips and called out softly and tenderly in his arms, "Chen, why are you here?" Tang Chen slightly curved his lips and replied just as gently, "To take you home." "Oh, going home," Lin Shu repeated foolishly, then leaned against Tang Chen's chest. At that moment, Tang Chen still didn't know the secret beneath her bathrobe. He hailed a taxi downstairs at the hotel and returned to the villa. Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo were at the old house, and he had originally planned to pick up Lin Shu and go back together. Now that she had been drinking, he was worried about disturbing the grandfather and the 2 little ones if they went back. So it was better to return to the villa. All the way, Lin Shu was very quiet, leaning on Tang Chen's shoulder with her eyes closed. Tang Chen thought she had fallen asleep and softly called out, "Wife." Lin Shu slightly opened her eyes, smiled, and looked up at Tang Chen, "Husband." That one word husband made Tang Chen's whole body tense up, his eyes darken, and his heartbeat quicken. If it weren't for being in a taxi, he would have immediately kissed her rosy little lips. After being woken up by his call, Lin Shu seemed unable to find a comfortable sleeping position. Her little head kept nuzzling against Tang Chen's chest, occasionally murmuring softly. Then she directly stretched out both arms, wrapped them around Tang Chen's waist, leaned against his leg, closed her eyes, and seemed to fall asleep. Coincidentally, feeling a bit uncomfortable, Lin Shu muttered to herself as she adjusted her sleeping position. Fidgeting a few more times, Tang Chen took a sharp breath, scooped her up in one swift motion, and spoke in a hoarse voice, "Wife, stop moving around." This time, Lin Shu obeyed and quietly closed her eyes. Falling back asleep, Tang Chen held her by the shoulders, the scent of shower gel and alcohol mingling on her, making him feel a bit intoxicated as well. Unfortunately, the villa was quite a distance from the hotel, and Tang Chen had never felt the villa was so far away before. Finally arriving, he tossed the driver 200 yuan bills and carried Lin Shu out of the car, from the entrance to the room on the 2nd floor. Not a second was wasted. Once inside the room, he turned on the softest bedside light, laid her on the bed, and looked at the petite woman sleeping soundly in her robe. The frustration from the car ride earlier subsided. He went to the bathroom, wrung out a towel, and wiped Lin Shu's face. After cleaning her face, he noticed the belt of her bathrobe had loosened. He reached out to untie it. intending to change her clothes so she could sleep more comfortably. Tang Yichen swore he had no ulterior motives, he simply wanted his wife to sleep more comfortably. After all, no one could sleep well in a bathrobe. But the moment he untied the robe and laid it open, he was met with the sight of his wife lying on the bed in a strange outfit. His eyes were drawn to her snow-white long legs, with a faint glimpse of her underwear visible. Her top had also shifted from her earlier movements, leaving her slender waist completely exposed. For the first time in his life, the seasoned CEO of Tang Corporation felt a rush of heat to his nose, and to his utter embarrassment, a nosebleed began to flow. He casually picked up the towel he had just placed by the bedside, covered his nose, tilted his head back, and strode into the bathroom. After more than 10 minutes, he tidied himself up and came out after showering. This embarrassing incident absolutely could not be known by a second person. Glancing back at the person lying on the bed, who still seemed completely unaffected and was sleeping soundly, Tang Yichen felt the anger he had suppressed while showering flare up again. He lay down beside Lin Shu, pulled her into his arms, pressed his forehead against her back, and whispered softly, "Wife." His voice was filled with grievance. It was the first time Mr. Tang had seen his wife wearing such special clothes. Who would have thought she would also get drunk and end up sleeping the whole time? He was really unhappy. If he had known, why bother coming home? They might as well have booked a room at a hotel. He couldn't help but wonder if he should kiss his wife awake. He could only hold Lin Shu tightly, showering her back with soft, scattered kisses while repeatedly calling out, "Wife." Lin Shu wasn't exactly sleepy, she was just drunk and her mind was hazy. So when Tang Yichen kept calling her name from behind, she slowly, frowning, half opened her eyes, let out a soft hum, and murmured groggily, "Yichen." This completely unleashed the pent-up emotions in Tang Yichen. His eyes turned crimson as he flipped over and pinned the person in his arms beneath him. The next day, when Lin Shu woke up, she was alone in bed. For a moment, she felt disoriented and froze briefly. As she shifted her body to get up, she realized her eyes were sore and her back ached. Although she had been hazy about the events of the previous night, her body had felt it all. She knew Tang Yichen had come, carried her home. And then, as if he had taken an aphrodisiac, had been excited all night, coaxing her by her ear, repeatedly saying it was the last time. Lin Shu slowly sat up and lifted the blanket, only to find she was still wearing the sister-themed uniform from the night before. However, all the buttons were undone, and the skirt had been pushed up to her waist. Her cheeks flushed so intensely it seemed as if they could drip blood. Memories from the previous night suddenly flooded back. As if a valve had been opened, she recalled Tang Yichen carefully undoing the buttons while hoarsely whispering, "Darling, I love it so much. We can't ruin this pretty outfit. Wear it for me again next time, okay?" Lin Shu couldn't remember what she had said at the time, but one thing was certain, there would be no next time. Supporting her waist, she prepared to get out of bed. Just as she moved both legs off the bed, Tang Yichen pushed the door open from outside. Holding a tray in his hands, he was beaming, looking utterly pleased and triumphant. "Darling, you're awake." Then, grinning, he walked over with a plate in hand, speaking in an ingratiating tone, "I made you breakfast. You must be hungry. Have something to eat first." Lin Shu puffed her cheeks angrily and glared at him. In Tang Yichen's eyes, her expression held no intimidation at all. Instead, he found it utterly adorable. Nevertheless, he moved closer to coax her, taking the initiative to admit his mistake. "Darling, I was wrong. Next time, I'll definitely keep my word." After setting the food on the table, he knelt on one knee directly in front of Lin Shu. Lin Shu felt extremely embarrassed. She was still wearing the same clothes from yesterday. Pressing her lips together, she pulled the blanket over herself. Her face flushed as she lowered her head, too shy to look at Tang Yichen. Tang Yichen, however, looked up at her with a playful smile curling his lips. Lin Shu, unable to withstand his constant smiling gaze, lost her temper and couldn't help but let out a chuckle herself. She raised her small fist and playfully hit his chest. Tang Yichen quickly brought the breakfast from the table and personally fed Lin Shu. "Darling, I'm not going to the company today. I'll stay home with you." That day, none of the 3 presidents of JK Group went to the company, a first in history. Chapter 389, President Qin finally. Before leaving the room, Qin Hao specifically went to check on Qin Qing. Seeing that she was already sound asleep, he carried Tang Wanna and left the hotel. The hotel owner was also an acquaintance, although that guy always seemed to clash with Qing Qing, perhaps due to incompatible personalities. They would always bicker whenever they met, and it would feel strange if they didn't exchange a few words. They seemed to dislike each other, but in the end, he was someone trustworthy. So Qin Hao felt at ease leaving Qing Qing to stay overnight at the hotel. After carrying Tang Wanna out of the hotel, he took a taxi directly back to the apartment. The apartment wasn't far from the hotel, and the taxi ride took only about 20 minutes. Along the way, the little girl was very well behaved, neither fussing nor making a sound. From the moment she got into the taxi until Qin Hao carried her back to the apartment, she remained quiet the entire time. After returning to the apartment, Qin Hao placed the person on the bed, then turned and went to the kitchen to prepare honey water. When he returned to the room holding the honey water, he was met with a scene that made his blood boil, because he had been in a hurry to make the honey water. He hadn't turned on the air conditioner right away. The girl, probably feeling hot wrapped in her bathrobe, had pulled it open and tossed it onto the floor as Qin Hao entered with the honey water. He looked at the person lying on the bed. Her snow-white skin formed a stark contrast against the dark grey silk sheets and duvet cover. Her black hair spread out around her, exuding a smooth, seductive allure. Wanna was already fair-skinned, but this visual impact made her appear even whiter, so white it seemed to glow. Unaware of how alluring she was, the girl lay on the bed in that uniform, unintentionally striking a provocative pose. Seeing it in person was entirely different from looking at a photo. The sight of his beloved girl lying before him like this was 100 times more impactful than when he had seen the photo earlier. Qin Hao's steps faltered, his eyes ignited, and his heart began to boil. A fire that had been suppressed all night surged downward, and he could no longer hold back. He stood frozen in place, not daring to approach. If he took even one more step, he had no confidence in his self-control. He was afraid he would lose it completely, so Qin Hao stood there, holding the cup of honey water he had specially prepared for Tang Wanna, watching her from 3 or 4 meters away as she lay there, unconsciously. His Adam's apple bobbed. Qin Hao stood there dazed for a while, watching as Tang Wanna turned over. The ultra-short skirt rode up, revealing her perfectly shaped long legs slightly bent, and he caught a glimpse of her white panties. Qin Hao turned his back to the person on the bed, holding the now cold honey water, and prepared to leave. Then, he heard a soft, delicate voice from behind. "Third brother, I'm hot." Qin Hao placed the honey water in his hand on the table, quickly walked to the air conditioner switch, adjusted it to a suitable temperature, and then turned around to head into the bathroom. If he didn't splash some cold water on himself, he felt like he was about to explode. Just as he turned, he saw the little girl who had clearly been lying on the bed just moments ago now sitting up. She rubbed her eyes, her cheeks flushed red, and frowned as if she were feeling unwell. Then looked at him with a dazed expression. Qin Hao thought she might be feeling sick from drinking too much. Without a second thought, he hurried to the bedside in a few quick strides, his face full of concern as he asked, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Do you need to throw up?" Tang Wanna sat there in a daze for a moment before seeming to finally process his words, then shook her head. Only then did Qin Hao let out a sigh of relief, but because they were so close. And he had also had some alcohol tonight. The scent of liquor on Tang Wanna's breath seemed to intoxicate him even more. Unable to avoid it or escape, he looked intently at the person before him, his pent-up emotions of so long seeming ready to burst forth all at once. His voice, when he finally spoke, was so hoarse it hardly sounded like his own. "Wanna." Tang Wanna lifted her head, grinning at Qin Hao with a tipsy smile. 2 patches of crimson bloomed on her cheeks, and her eyes were moist and sparkling. With a seductive, silken gaze, she called out, "Third brother." Qin Hao's breathing grew heavy, the darkness in his eyes swirling intensely. He abruptly lowered his head and captured Wanna's rosy lips without another word, plunging in as if trying to transfer all the fire burning within him to the person beneath him. Tang Wanna let out a soft moan and melted under him. Already dizzy from the alcohol, her mind now felt as if she had suddenly floated up to the clouds, soft, light, and utterly pliant, wherever third brother's fingers touched. It was as if her skin ignited, her entire body burning with heat. Tang Wanna responded stiffly and gently, while Qin Hao seemed greatly encouraged, holding her even tighter and kissing her more deeply. Both of them were almost breathless. Tang Wanna felt as if she was about to faint from lack of oxygen, her consciousness growing increasingly hazy. Finally, Qin Hao loosened his grip slightly, panting heavily beside her ear. As soon as Wanna regained a bit of clarity, he pressed down again. So soft, so sweet. This time, Qin Hao slowed his pace, kissing her gently and tenderly, from her forehead to her eyes, and then to her small lips, which were already red from his kisses. He lingered on her cherry-red lips for a long time, murmuring, "Wanna," before finally letting go and moving downward. His large hands roamed everywhere, igniting flames, and lingered on her waist, caressing it gently. Her delicate skin broke out in goosebumps from his touch. Both of them felt a strange yet expectant sensation, like strands of silver thread gradually entwining. binding the two of them inseparably. The alluring uniform had somehow ended up on the floor. At the final moment, Qin Hao, trembling, propped himself up and looked down at the dazed figure beneath him, asking in a low, heated voice, "Wanna, is this okay?" On the wedding night, waiting to unwrap the gift, he probably couldn't wait any longer. Beneath him, Tang Wanna blushed shyly. Though her head was spinning and her entire body felt weak and limp, she was fully conscious and clearly aware of what they were doing. Moreover, the alcohol had emboldened her. After drinking, she became even bolder. She reached out with both hands, hooked them around Qin Hao's neck, her eyes sparkling with a smile, and pressed her lips forward, gently. Biting his Adam's apple, her small hands began to wander restlessly over his body. Boom! Qin Hao was completely ignited. Tang Wanna heard her third brother's low, panting whisper in her ear, "I love you." It felt as if countless fireworks had exploded in the sky all at once, and her entire body trembled lightly. Happy Chishi Festival. Our third brother has finally. Applause and cheers, wishing everyone a sweet and loving romance. Chapter 390, Cici Yao. Chen Cici and Lin Muyao were the last to leave the hotel. Her face was still flushed as she stepped out, secretly relieved that he hadn't seen her in that outfit earlier. Lin Muyao held her hand as they walked out of the hotel. He had originally planned to take a taxi to send her home, but after all the excitement, although most of the alcohol had worn off, her mind was still buzzing with energy. Despite the late hour, she tugged at Lin Muyao's sleeve and said she wanted to go see a movie. "Alright, if you want to go, I'll go with you," Lin Muyao said with a smile, immediately pulling out his phone to check cinema schedules and buy tickets. There was a large cinema near the hotel, and a recently released sci-fi film was starting in half an hour. After checking, he immediately asked, "Is a sci-fi movie okay? Do you want to watch it?" If she didn't want to, he would look for something else. He had been very busy recently and always felt he had let Cici down. Now that JK Group had injected funds, everything was back on track, and he could spare more free time. "Okay, let's watch this one," Chen Cici replied with a smile. Looking at Lin Muyao, the two of them walked hand in hand toward the cinema. The midnight screening wasn't crowded. Although it was a recently released sci-fi blockbuster, there were only about a dozen people scattered throughout the cinema. Lin Muyao bought tickets for the last row, which was designed for couples. They were the only two in that row. Chen Cici leaned on Lin Muyao's shoulder, thoroughly enjoying the movie. Lin Muyao, however, was quite distracted. He barely paid attention to the screen, instead spending most of the time gazing down at the person beside him. Chen Cici noticed his intense gaze and smiled, reaching out with both hands to turn his head back. "We're watching a movie. Why are you staring at me?" Lin Muyao held her hand and kissed her palm. It tickled a little, and Chen Cici giggled as she pulled back slightly. "The movie isn't as beautiful as you," Lin Muyao said with a smirk, his eyes sparkling. Chen Cici shot him a playful glare, but Lin Muyao couldn't resist cupping her chin and leaning in to press his lips against hers. The sweet, mellow taste of fruit wine lingered. Feeling that Chen Cici was a bit breathless, Lin Muyao finally let her go. Chen Cici, her face flushed, turned to look at the screen, her heart beating fast, thumping and unable to calm down for a long time. Actually, the movie was still very exciting. Chen Cici didn't usually watch this kind of sci-fi film before, but after watching it tonight, she was completely captivated and still felt unsatisfied when it ended. By the time the movie ended, it was already past 2 a.m. Lin Muyao took a taxi to send Chen Cici back to her apartment. When they reached the apartment door, so Brother Yao would have nothing to change into after his bath, she came out in her pajamas and said to Lin Muyao, "Brother Yao, you, go ahead and take a shower, take off your clothes, and I'll wash them later and put them in the dryer. There are no men's clothes here, so maybe, after your shower, you can wear a bathrobe for now." "Okay," Lin Muyao replied with a gentle smile as he walked into the bathroom. Chen Cici hand-washed his undergarments. It was her first time washing a man's underwear, and she felt so flustered that she didn't even look at them properly. She just scrubbed them haphazardly, rinsed them quickly, and put them in the dryer. Then she tossed the rest of his clothes into the washing machine. When Lin Muyao came out of the shower, he was wearing a bathrobe that revealed a large portion of his chest muscles. Water from his hair trickled down along the contours of his body. Chen Cici looked up and saw this scene, quickly averting her eyes. I'll get you the hairdryer," she said before hurriedly escaping. Lin Muyao watched her retreating figure, a smile curling at the corners of his lips. Lin Muyao dried his hair and was about to go wash his underwear when he realized it was missing, along with his shirt. "Cici, where are my clothes?" "I took them to wash. I hand-washed the underwear," Chen Cici blurted out, only realizing what she had said afterward. Her face instantly turned as red as a boiled duck. Lin Muyao looked at her with a smile in his eyes and deliberately asked, "Then tonight, where should I sleep?" Chen Cece's apartment only had one bed. You take the bed, I'll sleep on the sofa, Chen Cece said quickly. After speaking, she grabbed a blanket and hurried over to the sofa, lying down and turning off the light. If she didn't turn it off, Brother Yarrow would see her face, red as if it were dripping blood. Lin Muyao paused for a moment at her actions, then without hesitation walked over to the sofa, bent down, and picked Chen Cece up. Chapter 391 The Childish CEOG. Chen Cece couldn't help but let out a cry, then nervously wrapped her arms around Lin Muyao's neck. Lin Muyao carried her toward the bed and placed her on it. You sleep on the bed, I'll take the sofa, he said, preparing to go sleep on the sofa. Chen Cece sat up and grabbed his hand. The sofa is too small. I should be the one sleeping there. Lin Muyao pressed her shoulders down. Be good, listen to me. Just as Chen Cece was about to say more, Lin Muyao curled his lips and deliberately added, or we could just sleep together. Chen Cece immediately fell silent and obediently lay down on the bed. Lin Muyao stood by the bedside watching her, tucking her in before turning to leave. Chen Cece listened to the rustling sounds behind her. Knowing that Lin Muyao had settled on the sofa, she lay with her eyes open. The heart in her left chest beating increasingly noticeably in the darkness. She covered it with her hand, afraid it might be discovered. Lin Muyao's tall frame was indeed uncomfortable to sleep on the small sofa. With his legs from the knees down hanging off the edge, however, the reason he lay there with his eyes open wasn't because he was uncomfortable, it was simply because Cece was still sleeping on the large bed in the room. After lying on the sofa for a while, Lin Muyao got up to fetch a bottle of cold water from the fridge. Feeling as though he was still too warm, as soon as he stood up, he heard Chen Cece's voice, Brother Yao. Lin Muyao paused. Did I wake you? No, are you having trouble sleeping? Maybe, you could come and sleep on the bed with me. Chen Cece clutched the blanket with both hands and spoke softly, her voice growing quieter, but in the quiet of the night, Lin Muyao heard every word clearly. He walked to the bedside and called out gently in a low voice, Cece. Chen Cece buried her face in the blanket, too embarrassed to speak any further. Lin Muyao curled his lips slightly, lifted the blanket, and got into bed. Chen Cece felt the mattress sink behind her. After a while, she sensed a warm breath enveloping her like a flame. Instantly, her entire body tensed up with nervousness, and she lay stiffly, not daring to move. Lin Muyao turned on his side, reached out, and pulled her into his embrace. His deep, husky voice whispered softly behind her, Cece. Are you asleep? Chen Cece let out a soft in response. Behind her, Lin Muyao's fiery lips landed on her back, and she couldn't help but let out a faint moan. Lin Muyao seemed greatly encouraged, kissing her with patience and tenderness, his hand slipping under the hem of her nightgown. The night was already deep, and the room was filled with an indescribable scene of tenderness and enchanting beauty. When Ji Fengfan carried Xia Qingqian out, the driver had just pulled up and stopped at the hotel entrance. Ji Fengfan had called his driver right after leaving the bar. The girl had gained some popularity recently, so the two of them couldn't just take a taxi back, since he couldn't drive himself. He had no choice but to call the driver. Xia Qingqian was in a half-asleep, half-awake state, constantly leaning against the car window and looking outside. This made Ji Fengfan extremely frustrated. Was the glass window more comfortable than his shoulder? This silly girl. As the car passed by a dessert shop, Xia Qingqian's eyes lit up, and she asked the driver to stop. Stop quickly. The driver pulled the car over by the roadside. Ji Fengfan frowned slightly and asked with concern, What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Do you want to throw up? I'm going to buy some cupcakes. Then she opened the car door and got out. Ji Fengfan quickly opened his door and followed her, walking swiftly to her side, took her hand, and led her back to the car, saying, eating in the middle of the night, aren't you afraid of gaining weight? If young Manny finds out, she'll scold you to death. Young Manny is Xia Qingqian's agent. For Xia Qingqian, she can be described in 2 words, fierce. She is very strict with her and completely forbids late-night snacks, but Xia Qingqian never listens and secretly eats them anyway. And this person, wearing a bathrobe, was about to run out to buy something. Does she want to make headlines tomorrow? Xia Qingqian raised a charming smile, turned to look at Ji Fengfan, and said with a silly grin, You're not allowed to tell Sister Manny. I'm hungry and want to eat. Ji Fengfan looked at her silly expression, deliberately put on a stern face, and said resignedly, Sit quietly in the car, I'll go buy it. Okay, I want strawberry cake. Xia Qingqian curled up on the leather seat in the back row, pushing her luck as she started making demands. How would I know if they have strawberry cake? I'll buy whatever they have. You should be grateful you're getting anything at all. Ji Fengfan said as he closed the car door and walked toward the cake shop. In no time, he returned with a box in his hand. He opened the car door, got in, and handed the cake to Xia Qingqian. Xia Qingqian took it with a smile and asked, "Is it strawberry flavored?" Ji Fengfan pursed his thin lips and said, "You're lucky, there was one last piece left." In truth, when he arrived, the last strawberry cake had just been bought by two girls ahead of him. He had shamelessly managed to buy it from them, even though he had said he would buy whatever was available. He still didn't want to see her disappointed. Xia Qingqian opened the box, and upon seeing the strawberry cake, she was visibly overjoyed, pouting her little mouth. She leaned forward and gave Ji Fengfan a kiss on the cheek. Ji Fengfan, feeling awkward, secretly blushed at the ears. The slight frustration he had felt from being ignored earlier vanished because of that kiss, and he was happy again. Xia Qingqian was genuinely a bit hungry. She had only been drinking in the evening and hadn't eaten much. After a nap, half of her drunkenness had worn off, and her stomach began to growl. As soon as she opened the box, she eagerly started eating. Her little mouth was stuffed full, and cream was smeared around her lips. The small piece of cake was quickly devoured. Ji Fengfan watched her lively expression as she ate, couldn't resist reaching out to pull her closer, then lowered his head to kiss her, licking all the cream from the corners of her mouth before letting go. He then licked his lips and said with lingering satisfaction, "It really is delicious." Xia Qingqian was left weak and limp from his kiss. Her soft body leaning against his chest, with one arm wrapped around her, Ji Fengfan was finally satisfied. Mr. Ji, who was jealous of his own car window, was truly childish to the extreme. After eating and drinking her fill, Xia Qingqian leaned against Ji Fengfan and soon fell asleep with her eyes closed. When they arrived home, Ji Fengfan carried her upstairs. Looking at the person sleeping soundly and peacefully on the bed, Ji Fengfan, in a fit of pique, deliberately pinched her nose. Xia Qingqian frowned, waved her hand to swat away his mischievous hand, murmured something, turned over, and went back to sleep. Ji Fengfan couldn't bear to actually wake her, so he began to untie her bathrobe to let her sleep more comfortably. The moment the bathrobe came undone, he froze in place, his Adam's apple involuntarily bobbing. The sister uniform looked both pure and adorable, stunning and alluring on Xia Qingqian. Caught completely off guard, Ji Fengfan was utterly captivated. Chapter 392, Making the News. Ji Fengfan, his entire body burning with desire, rushed forward. After quickly removing the obstacles on his body, he climbed onto the bed and pressed close to Xia Qingqian's back. He whispered softly in her ear, "Qianqian, wake up, don't sleep just yet." Xia Qingqian was extremely tired. With her eyes closed, she mumbled and frowned, trying to move away. Ji Fengfan used all his tricks to entice her, his voice filled with a pitiful and pleading tone as he whispered, "Qianqian, wake up quickly, please pay attention to me. If you ignore me any longer, I might just devour you." Then, with both hands and his mouth fully occupied, he put his words into action. Xia Qingqian, stirred by his movements, groggily opened her eyes and saw only the top of his head. Before she could even react, she really got eaten. Xia Qingqian belatedly realized that she was wearing a sister uniform. No wonder someone was so hyperactive tonight, so excited. The next morning, she was woken up by a phone call. Before she could even reach for her phone, it was picked up by the person beside her. As soon as the call connected, she could hear her manager yelling from a distance, "Xia Qingqian, look at what time it is. Did you forget about the magazine shoot this morning? I just reminded you on WeChat yesterday. I beg you, please try to remember things, okay?" Xia Qingqian was jolted awake by the scolding. Lying in bed, she stuck out her tongue and turned to look at Ji Fengfan. He was naked, leaning against the headboard, holding her phone, and getting an earful from her fierce manager. Xia Qingqian quickly averted her eyes. Such a stimulating sight first thing in the morning was too much for her to handle. She had indeed forgotten about the morning shoot, but it wasn't her fault. The instigator was right beside her, and it was only fair that he took the heat from Sister Manny on her behalf. Ji Fengfan waited until young Manny had finished venting before speaking up. "It's me, Ji Fengfan." There was a noticeable pause on the other end of the phone, followed by a shift to an extremely respectful tone as the person asked, "President Ji, is Xia Qingqian with you? She has a magazine photoshoot this morning, and I've arranged for a driver to pick her up. Cancel it for her. The penalty fee will be covered by the company. Also, don't schedule any work for her in the next couple of days," Ji Fengfan said directly. Another pause followed on the other end of the line before the person replied respectfully with 4 words, "Understood, President Ji." After hanging up the phone, Ji Fengfan returned the phone to Xia Qingqian, then pulled back the covers and got out of bed. Xia Qingqian covered her eyes to avoid looking at him, which made Ji Fengfan smile faintly. Feeling refreshed and in high spirits, he headed to the bathroom with a slight smirk. After getting her phone, Xia Qingqian immediately sent a WeChat message to young Manny to apologize. "Manny, I'm sorry, I forgot this morning." A long voice message immediately came through from the other side. Xia Qingqian clicked to play it and heard young Manny's furious voice. "You little brat, next time you're lying in bed with Mr. G, can you give me a heads up? Do you know how much my poor heart was scared to death when I heard Mr. G's voice? But you're still fine, aren't you?" Smiley face. Xia Qingqian knew she was tough on the outside but soft on the inside, always pushing her manager's limits. "Is it okay if I don't go to the magazine cover shoot?" Xia Qingqian felt it might not be entirely appropriate, but she really couldn't shoot today. Even if she hadn't forgotten, she wouldn't have been able to, because her body was covered in marks left by someone, making it impossible to wear those off-shoulder or backless outfits. Luckily, she didn't have much work in the next few days, so resting for a couple of days should help them fade. "Don't you think it's a bit late to ask now? President G already said the company is losing money. Why are you bothering with this? By the way, how intense was your battle last night that you need 2 days to recover?" "Sister Manny," Xia Qingqian was startled by her fierce words. All right, I'm very busy and don't have time to hear the details now. We'll talk about it next time we meet. Let me go handle the shooting matters first. You rest well these 2 days and don't cause any trouble for me. We'll connect again in 2 days. Okay." After finishing her conversation with the agent, Xia Qingqian looked up and saw Ji Fengfan standing right in front of her. She couldn't help but let out a red-faced scream. "Ah, why aren't you wearing any clothes yet?" Ji Fengfan turned around with a displeased expression and walked toward the wardrobe, muttering under his breath, "I've been standing there for 10 minutes. He seemed to imply that she hadn't noticed him. Was she no longer interested in him? Had she grown tired of him? Someone couldn't quite figure it out and felt that he might need to hit the gym again, as his abs didn't seem very noticeable anymore. After the two got up and had just sat down for breakfast, young Manny called again, but this time it was directly to Ji Fengfan. "Boss Ji, I have some not so good news." Young Manny carefully chose her words, unsure whether her boss would be happy or angry upon hearing the news. "What is it?" Ji Fengfan asked coldly, frowning. "You were photographed last night." Young Manny said truthfully, although she knew that the other person in the bathrobe, who was pulled into the car by President G and only captured in a blurry back view by the paparazzi, was Xia Qingqian. The paparazzi who released the news didn't know. As a result, the internet is now flooded with rumors about President G's scandal. Moreover, she truly hadn't expected that Xia Qingqian would go out in a bathrobe. Just how wild were these two? After hanging up the phone, Ji Fengfan opened Weibo and, sure enough, the hot searches and headlines were all about him. The paparazzi had taken 3 photos in total, one of him buying cake in the dessert shop, another of him walking to the car and preparing to get in, and the last one of him pulling Xia Qingqian back into the car, capturing her back view in the bathrobe. Fortunately, only his face was exposed. The two of them had never publicly announced their relationship because Xia Qingqian insisted on making her own way and didn't want people to say she had connections. The comments below were full of speculation, and the girl he had asked to buy a strawberry cake last night was defending him in the comments, describing the details clearly. Xia Qingqian noticed him frowning and looking very unhappy after answering the phone, so she asked softly, "What's wrong? Who was it?" Ji Fengfan looked up at her and said, "We were photographed yesterday." What? We were photographed? Was it posted online? What should we do?" Xia Qingqian panicked upon hearing this. After all, she was wearing a bathrobe last night, with no makeup and looking unkempt. Even if she wasn't a top-tier celebrity, she still had some pride to maintain. Ji Fengfan was displeased by her reaction, his face darkening as he pursed his lips in silence. Was it really that embarrassing to be photographed with him? Why was she so nervous? Xia Qingqian took out her phone and started browsing the news, murmuring to herself, "Thank goodness they didn't capture me barefaced and in a bathrobe for the internet to see." Ji Fengfan was momentarily taken aback, his earlier gloominess instantly lifting because of her words. So, it wasn't being photographed with him that she was worried about. Ji Fengfan still arranged for someone to take down those online news articles when the time came for him to step into the spotlight. He would definitely buy promotional posts to make a big splash. Love comes in 1,000 forms, each with its own sweetness. Chapter 393, A Morning Surprise. When Tang Wanna woke up the next day, the sun was already high in the sky. As she stirred slightly, her third brother's gentle voice came from behind her. Awake, Tang Wanna covered her face, too embarrassed to look at him. Although she had been drunk the night before, she remembered everything that had happened very clearly, including some of the more embarrassing details. She knew that later, her third brother had carried her to the bathroom to help her bathe, too shy to open her eyes. She had pretended to be asleep the entire time. After the bath, he had even changed her into clean underwear and pajamas. She was fully aware of it all. Chin Hao curled his lips into a happy smile as he gently pulled her hands away from her face. Then, as if performing a magic trick, he produced a ring. He formally got out of bed, walked over to Tang Wanna's side, and knelt on one knee, holding the ring up with both hands. He asked, "Wanna, will you marry me?" Tang Wanna was so shocked that she stood frozen in place, her eyes wide open, with only a wildly beating heart left, unable to utter a single word. Chin Hao knelt on the ground, his heart actually extremely nervous, although there was no elaborately planned surprise. After the two had become intimate last night, he felt he had to propose immediately. He couldn't wait a moment longer. Because Tang Wanna hadn't spoken, Chin Hao mustered his courage and asked again, "Wanna, will you marry me?" Tang Wanna was still too excited to make a sound, and in the end, she could only nod vigorously. How could she not be willing? The person she had liked since her girlhood, the one she had wanted to marry since her youth, the one she had secretly loved for so many years and finally made real. If she hesitated even a little, it would be a disrespect to this long-held affection. Seeing Tang Wanna nod, Chin Hao finally let out a sigh of relief, stood up with a smile, and directly took Tang Wanna's left hand, slipping the ring onto her ring finger. It fit perfectly. This time, it was finally securely in place. Tang Wanna kept staring at the ring on her left hand, grinning foolishly. The ring's design was very simple and elegant, and the more Tang Wanna looked at it, the more she liked it. Tang Wanna stayed curled up under the covers, knowing that her third brother had already taken leave for her. Chin Hao chuckled softly, planting gentle kisses on her forehead. Then he whispered, "Does it still hurt? Is your back still sore?" Tang Wanna's face burned with embarrassment as she reached out to cover his mouth. "Don't say anything, and don't ask." In truth, last night, her third brother had been very gentle, and she didn't feel any discomfort or pain. She was just incredibly shy. Chin Hao kissed her palm, causing her face to flush even more. She quickly pulled her hand back, grabbed the blanket, and pulled it over her head, hiding completely beneath the covers. Chin Hao laughed softly and coaxed her gently, "Good Wanna. Come out." "Okay, you'll suffocate if you stay under there. I won't ask anymore." "Alright." Then he gently tugged at the blanket. Tang Wanna didn't resist, and with a light pull from Chin Hao, the blanket slipped off. Looking at the adorable figure lying on the bed, her face as red as a boiled duck, he couldn't help but lean down and kiss her again. It wasn't until they were both breathless that he finally let go, burying his face in the crook of her neck. He took a deep breath and whispered, "Wanna, I love you." Tang Wanna trembled slightly, then smiled and whispered back in his ear, "I love you too." Chin Hao had hardly slept at all last night. He had returned very late, and afterward, after everything was over, he had carried the little one to the bathroom, bathed her, and changed her clothes. After taking care of everything, he lay beside her, propping himself up to watch her, unable to bear the thought of falling asleep. The little girl he had waited for all these years, the one he had always longed for, was finally his. He once harbored the thought of secretly guarding her from afar, standing in a place where she could see him with just a turn, as a mere observer. Yet, he often couldn't resist the urge to quietly wish for a life with her, year after year, for a long, long time. Fortunately, he finally waited for this day. Chin Hao held Tang Wanna's left hand, which now wore a ring, and only then did Tang Wanna notice that the ring finger of his left hand was already adorned with a matching men's ring, their fingers intertwined. The circle of the rings encircling their fingers, tightly binding the two together. Chin Hao took out his phone and began taking pictures of their clasped hands. This time, Tang Wanna cooperated with her third brother, and they took several photos. He selected the one he was most satisfied with and posted it on his social media, writing, "In life and death, we are bound. I made a vow with you, holding your hand, I will grow old with you." After posting on social media, Chin Hao got up to cook. While Tang Wanna continued to laze in bed, scrolling through her phone, she soon saw the post her third brother had shared. Smiling, she saved the picture to her phone and posted the same image on her own social media. She wrote, "Spring water begins to flow, spring forests start to flourish, and the spring breeze blows for miles, but none compare to you." Because in her heart, third brother was the best. The two of them posting on their social media at the same time was undoubtedly a simultaneous official announcement. Under both of their posts, there was a long string of congratulatory messages. Many of Tang Wanna's colleagues from the company left comments, and Ding Chen even sent her a WeChat message saying, "Future boss lady, congratulations. Remember to ask President Qin to give us red envelopes." Everyone was too shy to urge third brother to send red envelopes, so they all came to her instead. After Chin Hao finished cooking, He came in to call her for the meal and saw her pouting with a conflicted expression. As he walked over, he accidentally caught a glimpse of the messages on her phone. He immediately took out his own phone, thanked everyone openly, and sent a bunch of red envelopes in the group chat. After that, the entire company eagerly awaited their wedding. Knowing they could snag another round of big red envelopes, everyone was already calculating. One round of red envelopes at President Tang's wedding, another at President Chin's, and then President Mo, President Ji, and President Liu. Oh my, the bosses should hurry up and start dating. They couldn't wait to grab those red envelopes. Since they woke up late, they combined breakfast and lunch into one meal. Qin Hao prepared boiled shrimp, steamed sea bass, stir-fried pork, and tomato egg soup. All of Tang Wanna's favorite dishes. Qin Hao had really trained himself well and had firmly captured her heart through her stomach. I didn't know how to cook before and always thought that heavily seasoned food from outside was the most delicious, appetizing and perfect with rice. Since third brother started cooking for her every day, she discovered there were so many different ways to prepare food. Anyway, her taste has been spoiled by third brother. The two of them had almost finished their meal when Qin Hao started clearing the dishes. Hearing the doorbell ring, Tang Wanna looked up in confusion. They hadn't ordered anything or bought anything. So who could it be? Qin Hao was in the kitchen, so Tang Wanna hurried to open the door. As soon as she opened the door, she was greeted by an enormous bouquet of red roses. The delivery guy asked, "Are you Ms. Tang Wanna?" Tang Wanna nodded blankly. Then the guy said, "Your flowers. Please sign for them." Chapter 394, A Sea of Flowers. When she walked into the room holding a large bouquet of roses, Qin Hao happened to come out of the kitchen. Standing at the kitchen door, he looked at her with a smile curling at the corners of his lips. Tang Wanna immediately realized it was from third brother. Holding that large bouquet of flowers, the joy in her heart kept spreading. Enveloping her completely, she asked foolishly, "Third brother, why did you buy flowers? It didn't seem like any special occasion today." Qin Hao's eyes were full of light as he smiled and walked toward her, stopping right in front of her. His handsome face paired with a gentle and charming smile made Tang Wanna feel dazed for a moment. Then she heard third brother's pleasant voice say, "How can there be a proposal without flowers?" So, not only were there flowers, but there was more than one bouquet. After the first bouquet of red roses was delivered, over the next 10 minutes, people kept knocking on the door, delivering roses of various colors. In the end, Tang Wanna stood in the living room, completely surrounded by roses that filled the entire room. As if she were standing in the middle of a sea of flowers, she looked up at Qin Hao. The sunlight from outside streamed in, illuminating the entire room, and the vibrant, blooming roses of all colors were beautifully displayed, their fragrance filling the entire space. Tang Wanna was moved. No, she was deeply moved. If the morning proposal was a surprise, then the room full of flowers was the surprise within the surprise. She rushed forward, leaped directly into Qin Hao's arms, wrapped her arms around his neck, and pressed her lips to his. Qin Hao quickly reached out to support her bottom, holding her close, and soon took control, turning the tables. Qin Hao carried Tang Wanna towards the large bed in the room, and as soon as he laid her down, he eagerly pressed himself against her, kissing her collarbone. The two of them had been drinking yesterday, and under the influence of alcohol, they had both felt a bit dizzy. Now, completely sober, all their sensations were magnified, and they could feel everything clearly. Uncontrollable moans escaped from Tang Wanna's lips, intermittent and breathy, driving Qin Hao to the point where he couldn't stop. After all, he was a man in his 30s who had only just tasted the pleasures of the flesh. How could he withstand even the slightest provocation? However, at the very last moment, he managed to restrain himself and asked, "Wanna, are you still feeling unwell?" The woman beneath him was flushed, her eyes dazed, hearing his voice from above. She paused for a moment, then shyly shook her head. Qin Hao's patience instantly crumbled. Then came the overwhelming cascade of kisses. He was worried she might still feel uncomfortable, even secretly regretting that he hadn't performed well last night. So this time, he gave it his all, sleepless all night. Asterisk. When Qin Qing woke up in the hotel's large bed, her head was still throbbing slightly. She had been so happy that she drank too much and couldn't even remember when she had fallen asleep. Frowning, she sat up and pressed her fingers against her temples, still feeling unwell. When she tried to speak, her voice was hoarse. The room felt unusually quiet. Rubbing her eyes, she looked around. There was no one there. Disbelieving, she blinked hard a few times. Finally confirming that she was truly alone in the room, she hurriedly reached for her phone, about to make a call, when urgent doorbell chimes rang from outside, accompanied by the sound of someone knocking. Without a second thought about whether her clothes were appropriate, Qin Qing assumed her friends had just stepped out and returned. Without hesitation, She jumped out of bed and rushed to open the door, the moment the room door was pulled open. Both the person inside and the one outside were stunned, the two of them froze in place simultaneously. The man outside, looking at Qin Qing's attire, visibly blushed, the redness creeping up his cheeks and the tips of his ears. He cleared his throat and turned his face away. Qin Qing, only then realizing, looked down and noticed she was still wearing the sister-themed uniform from the previous night when she had come to answer the door. She let out a scream, slammed the door shut with a bang, and then shouted through the door, "Xiao Junhan, are you out of your mind, knocking on someone's door first thing in the morning? Is this the service of your 5-star hotel? I'm definitely going to complain about you." Xiao Junhan stood outside the door, rubbing his nose, feeling somewhat awkward. Truthfully, he didn't know why either. The two of them had been bickering since childhood, always clashing whenever they met. Every time, he intended to speak calmly, but for some reason, they ended up arguing as soon as they saw each other. He had come early in the morning after hearing the hotel manager report that Miss Qin had booked the presidential suite, which was why he had come looking for her. He never expected such an awkward scene. Xiao Junhan initially planned to leave, but after a second thought, he grew angry again. Who was this girl sharing a room with, and why was she dressed like that? He went straight to the surveillance room to check the footage and see who had entered the room. Only after seeing in the surveillance that it was a few girls did he finally feel relieved. After closing the door, Qin Qing quickly found her clothes and changed into them. She took out her phone and called each of her friends one by one, but surprisingly, no one answered. She looked around and realized that they seemed to have left without changing out of their uniforms. So, what was going on? She called the hotel's customer service to order some food, leisurely ate her steak, and then sent a message in the group chat. The group was created on the night of the party, so everyone is in it. Qin Qing, what's going on with you guys? You all left. Didn't even change your clothes, not answering your phones either. After a while, Lin Shu replied in the group chat, "Lin Shu, sorry, Qing Qing, Chen came to pick me up and take me home last night." Xia Qing Chen, me too. Chen Cici, me too. Tang Wanna hadn't replied to the message, and Qin Qing guessed that her brother must have taken her away. Qin Qing, then why didn't any of you answer the phone? Lin Shu, I was just busy with something and didn't hear the phone. Xia Qing Chen, me too. Chen Cici, my phone was charging, I didn't notice. At this moment, all three of them were still lying in bed, feeling extremely guilty. Qin Qing wasn't angry either, that's just how she is, carefree and straightforward. Instead, she started gossiping. Qin Qing, so, did you all have a big battle last night? The uniform temptation, how could the guys resist? Lin Shu. Xia Qing Chen. Chen Cici. Qin Qing took it for granted that a few people were the default, and her gossipy heart was stirred, but no matter what she asked, the people in the group pretended not to see it and never replied to her again. She suddenly thought of Wanna and her brother. Unable to wait any longer, she continued calling Tang Wanna, but still no one answered. Staring at her phone, she muttered to herself, it's already noon and they're still not done. In the end, after eating and drinking her fill at the hotel, she went to the front desk and said directly, "Tell your general manager Xiao that he'll be covering my bill today. He's getting off easy." With that, she turned and left the hotel without looking back. The front desk lady said respectfully, "Of course, Miss Qin, take care." Chapter 395, I'm willing to cook for you for a lifetime. When Tang Wanna woke up again, it was already evening. She groggily opened her eyes and noticed that her pajamas had been changed to a new set. Outside the door, there was a soft sound of keyboard tapping. Third brother must be busy with work. She sat up and saw her phone on the nightstand. Picking it up, she realized there were several missed calls from Qin Qing and many unread WeChat messages. Before she could check the messages, she quickly called Qin Qing back. The phone rang for a while before it was answered. As soon as the call connected, Tang Wanna anxiously called out, "Qing Qing." It was a bit noisy on the other end of the line, as if they were on a film set. She heard Qin Qing say, "Wait a moment." Then, it seemed like Qin Qing gradually moved away from the noisy area until it finally became quiet. "Where are you? Did you go to the set?" Tang Wanna asked. "Yeah, I was actually thinking of taking a break, but I got a call this afternoon and had to come back to work," Qin Qing complained on the other end. Then, as if suddenly remembering something, she asked, "I called you several times. Why didn't you pick up? You're not saying anything in the group chat either. What's going on? Last night, after my brother picked you up, did you too?" "My phone was charging," Tang Wanna quickly interrupted her. In truth, she had vaguely heard her phone vibrating in the afternoon, but at that time, third brother said to ignore it for now. Later, she was too tired and fell asleep, so she never replied to the messages. You all say that, who's going to believe it? My brother saw you in that seductive uniform and didn't react at all. Then you really should take him to see a doctor, since Qin Qing and Wanna had grown up together. They had always been close sisters who held nothing back from each other, so their conversations were more direct and wilder than in the group chat. No, third brother, he's perfectly fine, Tang Wanna said softly, he's just too normal, why even see a doctor? She couldn't help but recall certain moments from last night and this afternoon, her little face turning as red as a ripe apple. Who knew that Qin Qing on the other end of the phone would exclaim in surprise upon hearing this? So, you've tried it? Qing Qing, Tang Wanna couldn't help but call out to her, hoping she would calm down and restrain herself. After all, she was on set, a place full of people and gossip. Don't worry, I'm hiding in the dressing room, all by myself. Congratulations on finally pouncing on my brother, Qin Qing teased with a laugh. It's not me pouncing on him, it's clearly him pouncing on me. Tang Wanna blushed and whispered in her own defense, I can't believe it. My brother has turned into a big bad wolf devouring the little white rabbit. Qin Qing laughed heartily, not treating herself as an outsider at all. She couldn't help but inwardly muse that her brother really was a man in his 30s who had never tasted meat before. Could Wanna's delicate frame withstand such? From last night until now, such a long time. As the two chatted, the conversation turned to this morning. Qin Qing complained to Tang Wanna about how unlucky she had been. Let me tell you, Xiao Junhan is definitely out of his mind. Early in the morning, before I was even awake, he suddenly came knocking on my door. I was half asleep when I went to open it. How was I supposed to know it was him? He got a free show, seeing me in that uniform. Why is it that every time you two meet, it's always like this? He's usually quite polite when we see him, Tang Wanna said, thinking that the two of them were truly a pair of adversaries. I told the front desk to let him settle the bill himself, and I even ordered the most expensive steak at their hotel before leaving. Qin Qing was extremely angry when mentioning Xiao Junhan. Ha ha ha, I even took the hotel bathrobe with me. Should I return it? Tang Wanna laughed heartily. Thinking that this was exactly the kind of thing Qing Qing would do, staying at someone else's hotel and making the owner settle the bill himself. Return? I'd rather throw it away than give it back to him. It makes me so mad. The more Qin Qing talked, the angrier she became. Tang Wanna quickly tried to calm her down. All right, don't be angry. I'll treat you to a meal tomorrow. I don't even know if I'll have to work overtime tomorrow. Oh well, I can't talk anymore. Someone's looking for me. I need to get back to work. Let's chat later. Qin Qing hung up the phone immediately after saying this, clearly very busy. Qin Hao heard Wanna's laughter coming from outside and then saw her lying on the bed, rolling around without a care as she talked on the phone. It sounded like she was on the call with Qing Qing. He stood at the door, waiting for her to finish the call before approaching. Tang Wanna hung up the phone, turned over, and saw him standing by the bed. She called out softly and sweetly, "Third brother." Qin Hao's eyes darkened, and he turned his face away. Not today, it was the little girl's first time. He still had to consider her well-being. His Adam's apple bobbed several times before he spoke in a hoarse voice, "Get up and eat." Tang Wanna felt like a princess from ancient times, with clothes handed to her and meals served to her. She had been lying in bed almost from last night until now. Although half of that time was spent lying with third brother, she still hadn't gotten out of bed much. She sat up and moved around. This time truly feeling a bit uncomfortable, she shifted to get out of bed, but as soon as she stood up, her legs went weak and she fell back onto the bed. Qin Hao scooped her up in his arms and carried her directly to a chair by the dining table before setting her down. Tang Wanna looked at the 3 dishes and 1 soup on the table, all of which were appealing in color, aroma, and taste. Her little face flushed pink, and she felt not only warm inside but also cherished and loved. She lifted her head and said to Qin Hao, "Third brother, why are you so good to me? Really, truly, so very good." Qin Hao reached out and gently pinched her flushed little face with a smile. "Silly girl, if I'm not good to you, then who should I be good to?" Then he handed her a bowl of rice he had served. Tang Wanna happily took the bowl and began eating with delight. Qin Hao watched her eat so contentedly and couldn't help but break into a smile. Qin Hao thought to himself, if love is about 3 meals a day, then I hope to cook for you for a lifetime. After dinner, Qin Hao still had some work to attend to. Tang Wanna lay on the bed scrolling through videos. While Qin Hao brought his laptop back to the room to work, the two of them tacitly went about their own tasks, creating an unusually harmonious scene. From time to time, Qin Hao would look up from his emails to glance at the person on the bed. Occasionally, his gaze would meet Tang Wanna's, and the two would exchange a smile before returning to their own activities. Qin Hao worked until midnight before finishing. Tang Wanna, having slept a lot during the day, wasn't very sleepy at night. Later, she found a movie to watch and stayed up until midnight as well. After turning off the lights, the two embraced and settled down to sleep. Tang Wanna, unable to fall asleep, kept shifting restlessly in Qin Hao's arms. Before long, she heard his voice behind her, and his tone carried a familiar hoarseness, just like it had during the day. There was also a noticeable awakening behind her. "Wanna, stop moving." Tang Wanna immediately froze and lay still, obediently trying to sleep. Indeed, it's a bit overwhelming. Chapter 396, The Wedding. Tang Chen and Lin Shu's wedding venue was chosen at the top 5-star hotel in Jiangcheng, which is owned by Xiao Juanhan's family. When Xiao Junhan found out they were planning a wedding, he proactively called Tang Chen and insisted on providing the venue for free. He is the same age as Qin Qing, only 1 month older than her in terms of birth month, and he addresses Tang Chen and the others as older brothers. Tang Chen didn't refuse either. As their family's hotel is indeed the best in Jiangcheng, the wedding took place as scheduled, and the day was incredibly lively. Many reporters and netizens gathered outside the hotel, all hoping to catch a glimpse of the grand ceremony. Tang Chen had arranged for a significant number of security personnel, ensuring that the security measures were extremely tight. This was because he intended to keep the entire wedding confidential, with no live streaming. To ensure that the wedding proceeded flawlessly and was as perfect as possible, creating a profound and beautiful memory for Lin Shu, not only Tang Chen himself but also the other presidents of JK Group, Mo Ziyi, Qin Hao, Ji Fengfan, and Lu Yang, were all fully focused and vigilant on the wedding day. Fearing that any detail might go wrong, the handsome groomsmen helped welcome and entertain the guests, while the bridesmaids accompanied the bride in the dressing room as she got her makeup done. The two flower children, Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo, also stayed with their mother. Everyone arrived very early, personally taking care of all the preparations. After all, this was the first wedding among their group of brothers. If Tang Chen was somewhat nervous, the others were simply overjoyed. Lin Shu and the two children were driven to the hotel early in the morning. The children had already changed into their outfits and were dressed up at home. Everyone who saw them couldn't resist the urge to hug and kiss them because they were just too adorable. Lin Shu's makeup and dress change were arranged at the hotel. She was actually a bit nervous herself. From the moment she started getting her makeup done, her heart began to race, and she even felt a little worried. Although she was marrying the same person for the second time, this was her first time walking down the aisle. Every girl surely dreams of a wedding, so her heart was also filled with anticipation and happiness. After she finished her makeup and put on her wedding dress, Lin Yunuo was the first to exclaim, "Mom, you look so beautiful today, just like a princess." "Clearly, she's a fairy," Lin Yuqing chimed in. Lin Shu smiled and pulled her two little darlings into her arms, gently patting their heads. Chen Sisi and the other bridesmaids went to change into their bridesmaid dresses. Chen Sisi was the first to come out in her gown and happened to hear Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo's words. She said with a smile, "Our Cheng Cheng is so handsome today, like a little prince, and Wonuo is a little princess too, but Sister Xiaoshu, you look absolutely stunning today. President Tang will surely be amazed when he sees you later." Before long, Qin Qing, Tang Wanna, and Xia Qingqian also came out in their gowns. Seeing the already dressed Lin Shu, they couldn't help but shower her with compliments. "Sister-in-law, you are definitely the most beautiful bride." "Yes, sister-in-law, even I, as a girl, feel moved looking at you. It's like a fairy has descended to the mortal world." Lin Shu was a bit embarrassed by the compliments from several people, her slightly flushed face making her look even more charming and captivating. The wedding dress she was wearing was designed by herself. It was based on a very rough initial draft she had drawn when she was in her teens, which she had carefully revised for this occasion. After finalizing the design, she bought the materials and sewed it by hand. The diamonds on the wedding dress were all real. As Tang Chen was in charge of purchasing the materials and bought only the best for her, all the diamonds were top grade. So, although Lin Shu's wedding dress wasn't a custom-made design from a big brand, it was truly priceless. When several girls saw her with her makeup done and wearing the wedding dress, they were all stunned by it. They all said that when they got married, they would ask Lin Shu to design their wedding dresses too, because it truly fulfilled all a girl's fantasies. It was just too beautiful. Once everything was ready, Qin Qing, Tang Wanna, and the other two gathered around her and accompanied her to the back door of the banquet hall. The two little ones obediently held up the hem of their mother's wedding dress, waiting for the wedding ceremony to begin. Lin Yuqing, wearing a little suit and a bow tie, was the spitting image of Tang Chen, standing there like a little gentleman. Lin Yunuo, on the other hand, wore a princess dress with her hair curled. Looking like a beautiful little fairy from the forest, Both children had inherited their parents' good looks, attracting many guests who wanted to take photos with them. Daddy had already been waiting there. He was going to personally hand his daughter over to Tangchen at 6:18 p.m. The wedding ceremony began on time. The banquet hall doors slowly opened as Lin Shu, holding onto father his arm, walked down the aisle, Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunior, carrying small flower baskets. Followed obediently by their mother's side as they all made their way toward the stage, Tangchen stood straight on the stage, dressed in a black suit and tie. His face, already strikingly handsome, looked even more extraordinary today. From the moment Lin Shu first saw him standing there, her eyes never left him. Tangchen stood on the stage, watching his wife and two adorable children slowly approach him. His gaze remained fixed on Lin Shu, never once straying, in that moment. Her eyes held only him, and his eyes held only her. They gazed at each other with deep affection, completely captivated by one another. In her eyes, he was the most handsome and charming. In his eyes, she was the most beautiful and captivating. As Lin Shu walked forward, drawing closer to Tangchen, a smile never left her face. She was walking toward the person with whom she would spend the rest of her life. They had endured so many hardships. But because of their profound love for each other, they had finally reached this day. They would hold each other's hands, never letting go, and stay together until old age. The walk down the aisle lasted only about 10 minutes, but to Tangchen, it felt unusually long. Watching his wife, beautifully dressed in her wedding gown, walking toward him, he suppressed the urge to rush forward. His palms grew slightly sweaty from nervousness. Finally, Lin Shu reached him. Daddy seemed a bit emotional too. His lips quivered slightly, and his eyes were a little red. In the end, he only said, "My daughter is now in your hands." Then, he solemnly placed Lin Shu's hand into Tangchen's. Tangchen firmly held Lin Shu's hand and said to Dad, don't worry. The two little ones, Lin Yunior and Lin Yuqing, looked up at the same time and playfully said to Tangchen, "Dad, we're entrusting Mom to you. Dad, be good to Mom." Tangchen smiled and crouched down, nodding seriously to his son and daughter, saying, "Okay, Dad will." The two little ones looked at Tangchen with equally bright smiles, then each gave him a kiss on the cheek, one on the left and one on the right. Daddy took the two little darlings off the stage first to be seated. Left on the stage were Tangchen, Lin Shu, and the host. The host was a well-known presenter from JK's own entertainment department. With excellent eloquence and a constant stream of humor that had the guests below the stage roaring with laughter. Chapter 397, I Do. Two people stood facing each other on the stage. When the officiant asked Tangchen, "Do you take this woman to be your wife, to love her and be faithful to her, whether in poverty or wealth, in sickness or in health, until death do you part, do you?" Tangchen's smile was particularly radiant today. This was Lin Shu's thought as she stood opposite him. He solemnly replied, "I do." The officiant then asked Lin Shu, "Do you take this man to be your husband, to love him and be faithful to him, whether in poverty or wealth, in sickness or in health, until death do you part, do you?" At this moment, Lin Shu's heart was filled with a sense of gratitude and fulfillment. She nodded earnestly and solemnly, replying, "I do." Then the host continued, "Please, our bride and groom, exchange rings for each other." Upon hearing this, Tang Wanna hurriedly handed the ring she was holding onto the stage. The ring was personally designed and custom-made by Tangchen, with inscriptions on the inside, the initials of both their names. The two then placed the rings on each other's fingers. Thunderous applause erupted from the audience. The host, also somewhat emotional, raised his voice and said, "Now, please. The groom may kiss the bride." Tangchen cupped Lin Shu's face with both hands, gazed at her affectionately, and leaned in to kiss her. The applause from the audience continued without pause. Standing offstage, Tang Wanna was so moved that she couldn't hold back her tears. Qin Hao stood beside her, gently holding her close. Feeling the familiar presence beside her, Tang Wanna turned her head and gave him a sweet smile. For Lin Shu's wedding today, her parents, brother, and some close relatives all attended. The guests from Jing City filled 5 full tables. Tangchen covered all the travel expenses, accommodations, meals, and itinerary arrangements. Naturally, Lin Shu's parents were overjoyed, not because of the money, but because of the thoughtfulness behind it. Grandpa Tang, along with Dad He and Mom He, were seated at the main table. Both families were well educated and came from cultured backgrounds. Dad He and Grandpa Tang hit it off right away, chatting happily without any communication barriers. After the wedding ceremony, Lin Shu went to change into another dress and then joined Tangchen to toast the guests. The bride filled her glass with water instead of wine, while Tangchen's glass was filled with real baijiu. Everyone teased that the bride and groom, who were heading to the bridal chamber, didn't have to drink, but the bridesmaids and groomsmen couldn't get away with it, so the bridesmaids and groomsmen behind them started to get lively. The relatives from Jing City and Jiang City were relatively easy on them and didn't give them a hard time. However, when it came to friends around their age, they ended up spending about 20 minutes at each table. Everyone at the table came out to toast, and the groomsmen stepped up to block the drinks. As for the bridesmaids, since they were like family, the group couldn't bear to let them take the heat. So they had to step forward themselves. All of them had decent alcohol tolerance, but even they couldn't handle the rounds of toasts, so the bridesmaids also helped drink some. In the end, even He Jingyan joined in to help block the drinks. This unofficial groomsman was very dedicated, and the group of young people had a great time. Lin Shu changed into another dress midway through the event. Previously, she had worn a red evening gown, graceful and elegant. This time, she switched to a vibrant red cheongsam, which perfectly accentuated her curvaceous figure. As Tang Chen watched her approach, he no longer felt like continuing to toast the guests and just wanted to go upstairs. The presidential suite upstairs was their bridal suite for the night, and after the wedding ended, they could go straight up to rest. Xiao Junhan also attended the wedding banquet. When Qin Qing came to his table to propose a toast, she remembered the grudge from that day and deliberately took the initiative to toast him. She filled her own glass with mineral water while pouring a full glass of baijiu for Xiao Junhan. Watching him down it in one gulp, she finally felt avenged. Young people are always full of energy. In the end, 3 tables remained. Tang Chen's childhood friends and buddies, who kept Qin Hao and the others drinking. The other guests had already dispersed early. Relatives from Jing City were all accommodated in rooms upstairs. Since old Master Tang usually went to bed early, Tang Chen arranged for someone to take him home shortly after the ceremony ended. Although Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo didn't have school the next day, it was impossible for them to stay up late with the adults. Since they hadn't seen their maternal grandparents and uncle for a while, the 2 children happily stayed at the hotel with Uncle He and Auntie He. The banquet hall was still bustling with excitement, but Tang Chen took Lin Shu directly back to the presidential suite upstairs. Lin Shu said worriedly, "Chen, isn't this a bit inappropriate?" "It's fine, everyone will understand," Tang Chen said, holding Lin Shu's hand as they walked out of the banquet hall and headed toward the elevator. He then looked at her with a playful smile. Lin Shu glared at him in mock annoyance. What did he mean by everyone will understand? It wasn't every day that the bride and groom left their own wedding before the guests had even finished celebrating. Lin Shu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Wasn't this just telling everyone that they? Tang Chen led Lin Shu into the elevator, and they went straight to the top floor. As soon as they entered the room, he pressed her against the back of the door. Before Lin Shu could react, he eagerly lowered his head and captured her cherry-like lips in a kiss. The kiss was tender, affectionate, and lingering, so gentle that Lin Shu felt as if she were melting. It was a long time before Tang Chen finally released her lips. He looked at her with a smile. His eyes filled with such deep affection that she felt completely enveloped, unable to move an inch. She heard him say in a low, husky voice, "Wife, you look so beautiful today." Lin Shu looked up at him, her eyes sparkling brightly, and replied with a smile, "Husband, you look so handsome today." Tang Chen lowered his head again to kiss her hungry lips, then led her toward the large bed in the room. The hotel had decorated the room, with rose petals arranged on the bed in the shape of a large heart, along with a big stuffed toy. An aroma diffuser was placed on the cabinet by the door. Colorful balloons covered the floor, and a double happiness character was pasted on the window, creating a feeling that was both tacky and warmly festive. Xiao Juanhan's straight male aesthetic was truly something to be scorned. As Tang Chen walked, he began unbuttoning Lin Shu's cheongsam. He had wanted to do this ever since he saw her walking toward him downstairs in this outfit. Now, finally, it was just the 2 of them, and he no longer held back. Lin Shu was quickly brought to the edge of the bed, and the 2 of them fell onto it together. It was only then that she clearly saw the fire in Tang Chen's eyes as he loomed over her. In the shifting of their gazes, scattered kisses fell once again. Lin Shu felt as though she had melted into a puddle of water, completely devoid of strength. Tang Chen's large hand intertwined with hers, the ambiguous light from the bedside lamp casting shadows as the air grew thin, bringing a dizzying, spinning sensation. Her body couldn't help but tremble lightly. Until she was completely exhausted, he still showed no signs of tiring. Chapter 398, Everyone's Drunk. Upstairs in the presidential suite, the atmosphere was filled with romance. While downstairs in the banquet hall, the lively celebration continued. A group of people were still engaged in a drinking contest. The opposing side had more people, and almost all of the groomsmen had collapsed. Only Mo Ziyi and He Jingyan, the unofficial groomsman, were still holding their ground. Both of them had previously navigated dangerous situations, so their alcohol tolerance was the best among the group. Even if they were drunk, it was impossible to tell. The opposing side in the drinking contest was also nearly wiped out, so in the end, the groomsmen's side came out on top. Lu Xiaowu was the first to be knocked out by the alcohol. His face was flushed red, and he had long since passed out. Sleeping soundly at a nearby table, Ji Fengfan and Qin Hao weren't in much better shape. Although they hadn't completely collapsed, they were sitting dazedly in their chairs. Xia Qingqian and Tang Wanna, who hadn't drunk much, were keeping an eye on them. Both men had rosy cheeks and were looking up, grinning foolishly at Xia Qingqian and Tang Wanna. They looked nothing like the serious CEOs they usually were, appearing utterly silly and childish. Among the bridesmaids, only Qin Qing had drunk a lot and was also drunk, having passed out asleep at the table. Chen Cixi, seeing that most of the guests had left and there wasn't much left to do, left with Lin Muyao. As the night went on, everyone drank happily, and several more people ended up collapsing. After the guests gradually left, only their group remained in the banquet hall. Xiao Junhan had been affected by the strong liquor Qin Qing had given him earlier, so he didn't drink much afterward and remained relatively sober. He arranged with the hotel manager to open several rooms and had the staff escort Lu Yang to his room to rest. Qin Hao was taken care of by Tang Wanna, while Ji Fengfan was looked after by Xia Qingqian. Tang Wanna was initially worried about Qin Qing, but Xiao Junhan volunteered to ensure she got back to her room safely. After a moment of hesitation, Tang Wanna entrusted Qin Qing to him. Xiao Junhan bent down to pick up Qin Qing. Qin Qing, with her eyes closed, mumbled something indistinctly, then leaned against Xiao Junhan's chest and continued sleeping, as if she knew it was someone familiar, so she slept peacefully. Xiao Junhan carried her to her room, tucked her in, and then stood by the bed, staring at the person lying there who was completely unaware and only knew how to sleep soundly, not moving for a long time. Qin Qing seemed a bit hot. After lying down for a while, she started kicking off the covers. Her dress also shifted as she moved, and the hem rode up quite a bit, exposing her thighs. Xiao Junhan, standing by the bed, was stunned by this sudden scene and couldn't help but recall the time he accidentally saw Qin Qing in her uniform. He quickly averted his gaze, his face and ears involuntarily flushing with a red hue. Qin Qing's room was on the same floor as Tang Wanna and the others, right next door. After helping Qin Hao into his room, Tang Wanna still went to knock on the door of the neighboring room. Xiao Junhan opened the door and, looking up, saw Tang Wanna standing at the doorway. The blush on his face and the tips of his ears hadn't faded yet, and he lowered his head somewhat awkwardly. Tang Wanna looked at him and asked proactively, "Is Qing Qing okay?" Xiao Junhan cleared his throat and said, "Qing Qing is asleep." Then he stepped aside to make way at the door. Tang Wanna walked in, wrung out a towel to wipe Qin Qing's face, and after tucking her in, she stepped out. As she left the room, she saw Xiao Junhan still standing at the door, paused for a moment, and then said, "Brother Junhan, Qing Qing is asleep. You should go back and rest early too." Xiao Junhan nodded and then turned to leave. Tang Wanna also returned to their room. She had been away for about 20 minutes. When she got back, she found that third brother was not on the bed, and then she heard the sound of water coming from the bathroom. She hurried over and knocked on the door. "Third brother, are you taking a shower?" She was a bit worried that he might slip and fall while showering after drinking. The sound of running water inside quickly stopped. Tang Wanna waited for a moment, and then the bathroom door was pulled open with a whoosh, leaving her stunned on the spot. Qin Hao had a towel wrapped around his lower body. His hair was dripping wet, and his body wasn't dried off. Water droplets trickled down the lines of his chest muscles. With an innocent look in his eyes, he gazed at Tang Wanna, his voice hoarse yet gentle and pleasant, carrying a hint of coquettishness and the scent of alcohol. He said, "Wife, where did you go? I couldn't find you." After saying that, without caring that he was still wet and covered in water droplets, he stepped forward and pulled Tang Wanna into his arms, holding her tightly as if afraid she would disappear again. Tang Wanna trembled all over at his call of wife and was completely stunned, since Qin Hao was wet. When he hugged her, he ended up soaking her bridesmaid dress. Blushing with embarrassment, Tang Wanna said somewhat shyly, "Third brother, let me go first. My clothes are wet. I need to go take a shower." Qin Hao held on tightly and refused to let go, saying in a childlike manner, "No, I won't, otherwise, you'll disappear again in a little while. I just went to Qing Qing's place. Qing Qing got drunk," Tang Wanna explained in a small voice. Qin Hao held Tang Wanna, his head nuzzling back and forth against her shoulder and neck, his body seeming somewhat unsteady, swaying unsteadily. Tang Wanna was both shy and worried he might fall, so she had no choice but to reach out and support his waist. The moment she touched him, The heat from his body startled her, and her little face flushed even redder with embarrassment. Qin Hao held Tang Wanna and lingered affectionately for quite a while before letting go. Then, with a pair of dark, moist, and sparkling eyes, he smiled at Tang Wanna and said in a childish tone, "All right, then you go take a bath, and I'll wait for you on the bed." Wait for you on the bed? What kind of wild and suggestive words were these? Tang Wanna couldn't help but let her thoughts drift in the wrong direction. After Qin Hao released her, he headed toward the large bed by himself, as if he really intended to wait for her there. Tang Wanna, meanwhile, grabbed her pajamas and hid in the bathroom. By the time she finished removing her makeup and taking a bath, nearly half an hour had passed before she emerged from the bathroom. She saw that Qin Hao was indeed sitting obediently on the bed, waiting for her. As soon as Qin Hao saw her come out of the bathroom, he immediately turned his head to look at her, a charming smile spreading across his face. In a clear, cool voice, he called out, "Wife, why did you take so long? I almost fell asleep." Tang Wanna immediately halted in her tracks. Was third brother really drunk? Was this still the same third brother from usual days? It had to be said, a drunken third brother was really hard to resist. "Darling, come here quickly," Qin Hao urged with a beaming smile, patting the spot beside him. Tang Wanna shuffled her steps over. As soon as she sat on the bed, Qin Hao wrapped his arms around her, pulling her onto his lap. He then lowered his head to give her a kiss and said in a pitiful tone, "Darling, kiss me." Tang Wanna felt as if she had turned to stone. Why was her third brother, when drunk, so irresistibly adorable that she had no resistance at all? Qin Hao finished speaking and immediately pressed her down beneath him, leaning in to take advantage. Tang Wanna didn't know whether she was the one drunk or her third brother was. In any case, the hand she had pressed against his chest had no strength at all. Chapter 399, Honeymoon. Lin Shu and Tang Chen were sent off on their honeymoon by his parents and Grandpa Tang the day after the wedding. They directly had someone deliver their plane tickets and passports to the hotel, packed their luggage, arranged for a driver to pick them up, and sent them straight to the airport. His parents even specifically called Lin Shu to reassure them, telling them to go and enjoy themselves without worry. They would take care of Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo. They planned to stay in Jiangcheng for a while to look after the children for them. "Nan, you and Ichen can go on your trip with peace of mind. Mom and Dad have arranged everything for you. The flights and hotels are all booked. We'll take care of the two kids for you, so just enjoy yourselves, Mother," he said happily over the phone. She had put a lot of effort into planning this honeymoon trip for her daughter and son-in-law and felt a great sense of accomplishment. When Lin Shu received the call from her parents at the airport, she couldn't help but laugh and look helplessly at Tang Chen, who was also on the phone with his grandfather. The old man had made it clear that if they were worried about the company, he would personally take charge. In the end, the two of them took the suitcases handed to them by the driver and boarded the plane for their unexpected honeymoon trip. The destination of the flight was the Maldives. Truly the top choice for young couples on their honeymoon. It's said that newlyweds honeymooning in the Maldives can walk hand in hand barefoot on the fine white sand, feeling the warmth of the islands, swim in the ocean, listening to the heartbeat of the Maldives, forgetting all worldly worries, and fully enjoying the sunshine, beaches, love, and freedom. This was also Lin Shu's most genuine feeling upon arriving in the Maldives: the pearl-like sparkling sand, the emerald green seawater, the bright sunshine, the serene mood, and those pristine white paths. Even with the most limited vocabulary, it seemed impossible to fully capture the beauty of this place. Only by walking hand in hand with a loved one along those pure white paths could one truly experience the joy of the blue skies and clear waters here. Lin Shu had never really thought about a honeymoon trip before. The wedding itself was already a surprise beyond surprises. Tang Chen had mentioned the honeymoon earlier, but she thought since Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo had already started school, and the family had just gone out together during the summer vacation, she didn't agree to the two of them going out alone again. Little did she know that their parents had secretly arranged everything for them. The moment she got off the plane, she was completely captivated by the scenery here. Its beauty lies in the vastness of the sea and sky blending into one, the sparkling grains of sand, the soothing colors of blue and white, and even the narrow paths on the small islands that resemble garlands. Here, Lin Shu tried diving for the first time. Tang Chen took her along to participate in the island's diving activity. Seeing the breathtaking underwater scenery she had never witnessed before, Lin Shu was extremely excited. She had always been too afraid to go into the water before, but this honeymoon trip pushed her beyond her limits and allowed her to check off another new challenge. While diving to the bottom, she pulled Tang Chen along to take many photos. As soon as they returned to their room, she sent quite a few of them to her parents. Then, unable to wait any longer, She video called the two little ones. In the video, Lin Yunyor and Lin Yuqing very thoughtfully said to them, "Mom and Dad, we'll listen to Grandma and Grandpa. You two have fun and don't worry about us. Grandma and Grandpa will take us out to play. I'll help take care of my sister, Mom and Dad, don't worry." Tang Chen and Lin Shu leaned their heads together, video chatting with the two little ones. The family of four talked for over half an hour before ending the call. After finishing the video call, Lin Shu pulled out the suitcase, ready to grab her pajamas and take a shower. She had no idea what her mother had packed for them. It was like opening a mystery box. When Lin Shu unzipped the suitcase, she was somewhat stunned. Neatly arranged inside were brand new pajamas, along with undergarments, dresses, men's swim trunks, toiletries, skincare products. It was safe to say that everything they could possibly need was there. Lin Shu was amazed by her mother's packing skills. She took out the small bag containing the pajamas and brought it into the bathroom to get ready for her shower. It wasn't until after her bath, when she was about to put them on, that she realized what her mother had prepared for her: a silk spaghetti strap nightgown with lace trim at the chest. The fabric was quite thin, so when she put it on, it felt somewhat sheer and incredibly alluring. Standing in front of the bathroom mirror, Lin Shu looked at her reflection in the nightgown and couldn't help but blush with shyness. "Mom, really?" Lin Shu took a deep breath, pulled open the door, and stepped out of the bathroom. She saw Tang Chen standing on the balcony making a phone call. Quickly, she scurried into bed, pulled the covers over herself, and turned off the room lights, leaving only the dim glow of the bedside lamp. Although it wasn't their first time, they were already an old married couple. But thinking about the kind of nightgown she was wearing and the fact that it was their honeymoon, such a special time, Lin Shu couldn't help but feel a little nervous and shy. Tang Chen had made a call to Qin Hao about company matters. After hanging up and turning back toward the room, he paused for a moment. Why were the lights off? He assumed Lin Shu was tired from diving during the day and didn't think much of it. Entering the bathroom, he noticed a pair of underwear prepared for him on the shelf. He took off his clothes and went to shower. After his bath, he came out bare-chested, wearing only his underwear. His hair was still damp, so he found a dry towel to dry it. Once it was half dry, he went back to the bathroom to use the hairdryer. Lin Shu lay on the bed with her eyes closed, her body slightly tense from nervousness. She pricked up her ears, listening as Tang Chen went into the bathroom and later dried his hair. Finally, she felt the mattress beside her sink slightly. Tang Chen had finished his shower and gotten into bed. Once in bed, he habitually reached out and pulled Lin Shu into his arms, murmuring softly, "Honey, are you asleep?" Lin Shu responded with a soft hum. Tang Chen's hands began to wander over her body as he continued, "Honey, are you wearing new pajamas? They feel so soft." Hearing his words, Lin Shu's face flushed slightly. She hummed in agreement and whispered, "Yes, Mom prepared them." Tang Chen rolled over and propped himself up above her, gently lifting the blanket. In the glow of the bedside lamp, he finally got a clear view of the woman beneath him. His wife was wearing a beige camisole nightgown, with one shoulder strap already slipped off her shoulder, revealing a faint glimpse of what lay beneath. Tang Chen couldn't help but swallow hard, his eyes darkening as he said in a husky voice, "Mom has great taste." Lin Shu shyly turned her face away, unable to meet his gaze. Tang Chen gently turned Lin Shu's head with one hand, forcing her to meet his gaze. Then, with a slight curl of his lips, he continued, "But it's also because my wife is beautiful." After saying this, he leaned down and placed a soft kiss on Lin Shu's forehead. The two looked at each other, their eyes only holding each other. Tang Chen began to gently remove the barriers between them. Chapter 400, Having Another Baby. Tonight, Tang Chen was exceptionally gentle. Lin Shu felt as if she was stepping on clouds in the sky, drifting and floating. At the last moment, he seemed to be holding back with all his might, his voice hoarse as he whispered in Lin Shu's ear, "Darling, shall we have another baby?" Lin Shu's mind was hazy, but upon hearing his words, she paused for a moment, then gently lifted the corners of her mouth and nodded, "Okay." In truth, both of them loved children. Lin Shu, in particular, had grown up relying solely on her grandfather and especially cherished the feeling of a lively and bustling family. Tang Chen, having lost his parents at a young age, grew up with a few sworn brothers who had been through life and death together. Because of these brothers, he felt that having siblings to support each other and grow up together was a truly happy thing. Moreover, he had not been able to contribute much during Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunyor's pregnancy and birth, which had always left him feeling guilty. Therefore, both of them were quite looking forward to having another baby. The two spent a week vacationing in the Maldives, thoroughly enjoying their time as a couple. They set aside work and children, and for that week, it was just the two of them. It was Lin Shu's first time in the Maldives, and she truly fell in love with it. From the light blue to the deep blue, it fulfilled all her fantasies about the color. At their wedding, they didn't release any photos from the event. There was no grand and exaggerated motorcade, and they didn't arrange any other ceremonial procedures. Both of them were in agreement from the start. They just wanted to hold a wedding they would enjoy, a warm and intimate celebration for the two of them. That's why they didn't arrange for any press coverage either, this time. While on their honeymoon, Lin Shu took the initiative to post a set of photos from their honeymoon in the Maldives on Weibo. Shortly after posting, she received a lot of comments. It seemed everyone had been looking forward to them for a long time. Netizens immediately recognized that the two were on their honeymoon and flooded the comments, asking for more photos and for more appearances of President Tang. Lin Shu thought these netizens were absolutely adorable. After thinking for a moment, she picked 2 photos from their wedding day and posted another Weibo update. One photo showed her and Tang Chen standing on the stage exchanging rings, and the other was a picture of the two kissing. Both photos were incredibly beautiful and heartwarming, and you could feel the deep love radiating from them. The netizens who received this extra treat were extremely excited, especially the employees of JK Group, who had all received generous red envelopes on the wedding day. They flocked to Lin Shu's Weibo to leave congratulatory messages, filling the comments section with a festive atmosphere. Although Mom and Dad went off to enjoy themselves on their own, the two little ones, Lin Yuqing and Lin Yunuo, were having a great time with their grandparents. Moreover, He Jingyan hadn't returned to Beijing either. After taking over the company, although he had a lot on his plate, it was nothing compared to what he had dealt with before, so he stayed in Beijing and took on the role of chauffeur, driving the two kids to and from school every day. That little clever one, Lin Yunuo, even said to him on Friday after school, "Uncle, our homeroom teacher doesn't have a boyfriend. How about you be her boyfriend?" Nuo, don't you like your uncle anymore?" He Jingyan asked, deliberately pretending to be pitiful. "Not at all, it's because I like you, uncle, and also like our class teacher, Ms. Li, that I want the two of you to get married," Lin Yunuo said innocently from the back seat. "But if I get married, I won't have time to pick you up or play with you anymore," He Jingyan said, feigning regret. "Uncle, then maybe you'd better not get married." The little girl tilted her head and thought seriously for a long time before coming to this conclusion. He Jingyan burst into laughter upon hearing this. After Lin Shu and Tang Chen returned from their honeymoon, He Jingyan went back to Beijing first, while his parents stayed for another week before leaving. The elderly couple had spent a week taking care of their grandson and granddaughter themselves and found it hard to part with them. So they extended their stay in Jiangcheng for another week. Lin Shu and Tang Chen told their parents and grandfather about their plans to have another baby. The elders on both sides were overjoyed, especially Grandpa Tang, who immediately suggested they move back to the old house, saying that Lin Shu shouldn't have to do chores like cleaning and cooking by herself. If they moved back, someone would cook for them, and he could help take care of the two little ones as well. His parents were also very excited. His mother even considered moving to Jiangcheng to take care of her daughter. Lin Shu had expected them to be happy, but she hadn't anticipated such an enthusiastic reaction. She wasn't even pregnant yet. They were still in the planning stage, but the elders were already treating her as if she were immobile. Tang Chen and she tried their best to persuade both sides of the family, and finally managed to calm them down. As for Grandpa Tang's side, they agreed that once she actually became pregnant, they would move back to the old house. Lin Shu enjoyed a lively atmosphere, so she had no objections to this arrangement. They planned that Tang Chen would handle picking up and dropping off the two children himself, if he was unavailable. They would arrange for a driver to take Lin Shu to pick them up. As for his mother, they convinced her to return to Beijing for the time being, especially since there were elderly grandparents at home who needed care. Besides, she wasn't even pregnant yet. Dad he and Mom he specifically booked their flight for Saturday, and the two little ones went to the airport together to see their grandparents off. Lin Yunuo clung tightly to her grandmother's arm. Being young, the little girl was quick to tears. She had already cried once at home, and at the airport, with red-rimmed eyes, she reminded her grandmother to come back after a few days. Unlike his sister, Lin Yuqing didn't cry, but he also held onto his grandfather's hand, reluctant to let go. In the end, Dad he and Mom he almost couldn't bring themselves to leave, as seeing the two little ones like this made their hearts melt completely. In the end, it was Tang Chen who picked up his daughter and comforted her, while Lin Shu held their son's hand. Only then did the two little ones reluctantly wave goodbye to their grandparents. Lin Shu confirmed her pregnancy in the 2nd month after returning from their honeymoon. Calculating the time, it really seemed to have happened during their honeymoon trip. At first, Lin Shu noticed that her period was a week late, since she was usually very regular. She had a feeling about it as soon as she realized it was delayed. That day, after texting Tang Chen her suspicion from home, he immediately rushed back from the office. As soon as he got home, without a word, he picked Lin Shu up and was about to take her to the hospital. Seeing how flustered he was, Lin Shu wrapped her arms around his neck and quickly stopped him, saying, "Put me down first, there's no need to rush to the hospital, let's test it ourselves first. It might be too early for the hospital to detect anything." Tang Chen finally stopped walking and asked seriously, "Really?" Lin Shu nodded vigorously, "Yes, yes, yes." "Then let's test right now. Do we have that at home?" As he spoke, he eagerly pulled Lin Shu, ready to go test. "Testing in the morning is more accurate, it's not reliable now." Lin Shu pulled him to sit on the sofa and gently reassured him, "Don't be nervous, we'll test first thing tomorrow morning. And once it's confirmed, we'll go to the hospital." Tang Chen reached out and encircled Lin Shu, holding her for a while before murmuring in a muffled voice, "Honey, I'm really nervous." Thank you for watching. This is a full-length novel. If you'd like to see more, please leave a comment below saying looking forward to the next part, or give this video a like. I'll update based on your feedback. See you next time.